Hey everyone, welcome to Firescale Audiobooks. If you enjoy the audiobooks, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. If you'd like to support us further, consider becoming a Patreon member. As a member, you'll gain the ability to request the next part of a novel audiobook I've uploaded, depending on your Patreon tier.
The gambler's eyes were bloodshot, hunched in the dark corners of casinos, glued to the live feed on screen. Just lose already. Come on, lose. Please, I need this, I owe millions. My wife and kids have left. If I don't win, I'm done for. Come on, for the love of, why won't he just lose? In the ring. Lin Youzi remained calm. This was, in a true sense, his first direct encounter with another realm practitioner. He planned to use Johnson's moves to test himself, to understand how these fighters operated. And, one thing puzzled him, why did other people's attacks seem to carry special effects? Even when he used his abilities, all they did was enhance his physical strength, no special effects. What do time-space mirror and heaven-bearing mirror even do? He continued to dodge, thoughtful yet unfazed, each of Johnson's punches failing to rattle him. He'd tested enough. It was time to end this. In a swift motion, he tossed his short blades forward. Johnson sneered, sidestepping. Getting desperate and throwing away your weapon. This is Huayu's finest. Pathetic. From the audience came a chorus of jeers. What is Straw Hat Warrior thinking? Throwing his weapons. It's over, that Lighthouse fighter's going to start showing off now. Ha! Lighthouse Nation's freestyle fighting is the best. In the casinos, gamblers started cheering in triumph. Haha, I'm winning big. Time for a luxury car and a new model on my arm. I knew I'd make a comeback, yes. Gone was the pitiful sincerity they'd shown moments before, when they'd been pleading for a win to get out of debt. Now, their promises to settle down and pay back their debts were all but forgotten. These were people whose greed had been amplified by Qian Wujin's influence. Left to themselves, they'd never snap out of it. Watching this unfold, Qian Wujin adjusted his glasses, standing up from his seat. The match was as good as decided, and he was ready to claim the soul of his fellow realm practitioner. Days of the martial arts tournament had passed, and he hadn't yet harvested a single soul. It was frustrating. Lord of the Mystic Realm, forgive me. Now, I shall offer you a soul. I won. Johnson roared, triumph filling his eyes as he threw his fists forward in victory. Now. Lin Youzi's gaze remained icy calm, like a sheet of unbreakable ice. In his mind, a technique surfaced, the turnabout spear. He took several steps back, retreating to the very edge of the ring. There, he made a feint, leaving himself wide open. Seeing the opening, Johnson lunged forward with his fist, but in that instant, a long spear appeared in Lin Youzi's grip, its wooden tip pressing directly against Johnson's throat. Gulp. Sweat trickled down Johnson's face as he froze in place. If he'd taken one more step forward, his throat would have been pierced. The spear may have been wooden, but with Lin Youzi's skill, even a steel plate could be punctured, let alone a fragile windpipe. A reversal, an earth-shaking turnaround. Thunderous cheers erupted from the audience, both at the arena and those watching across Huayu. Unbelievable. Straw Hat Warrior. Straw Hat Warrior. His name echoed through the stands, wave after wave. He won. Haha, let the Lighthouse fighters go back home. Is that all you got? Couldn't even make it through the prelims. Freestyle fighting star. More like the comedy star. Ha. The laughter was merciless. The event organizers watched with satisfaction. I lost. Johnson's eyes were empty, his face a mask of disbelief. Staggering back, he lost his balance and fell from the ring, landing in a humiliating heap. Time's up, match over. The referee stepped forward to announce the end of today's event. Straw Hat Warrior, could you share your thoughts on today's match? You faced some intense pressure from Johnson, especially during his aggressive advances. Did you feel any particular challenges? And after securing this victory, is there anything you'd like to say to the audience? The audience leaned in to listen closely. Initially, Lin Youzi had intended to brush it off with a straightforward, he didn't stand a chance against me. But seeing how everyone was waiting for his words, he decided to take a more refined approach, something to suit his mysterious, master martial artist persona. After a moment's thought, he spoke with a composed tone. As a martial artist, it's essential to remain calm, no matter the situation. Even when facing adversity, we must keep a steady mind. Following the polite response, he continued, "Today's victory was possible only because of my opponent's overconfidence. As martial artists, even when an opponent seems down, we must never let our guard down." The referee was the first to applaud. "Well said." In the crowd, a few people laughed. They knew that with Huayu culture, there's often more than meets the eye in polite phrasing. Some had already deciphered the meaning behind his words. The referee had asked if Johnson's attacks had made him feel pressured, to which Straw Hat Warrior had replied with an emphasis on keeping calm. When asked about his victory, he credited it to his opponent's mistake. The real takeaway: his attacks didn't pressure me at all, I stayed calm the whole time and dodged every move deliberately. It wasn't that I was too strong, it was that my opponent was too reckless, charging in without a thought. As the crowd caught on, they couldn't help but chuckle, seeing Johnson once again humiliated by implication. His face twisted in anger as he stormed out of Zone 16. Qian Wujin's expression darkened. A fellow realm practitioner defeated by an ordinary person. It was an embarrassment. But he had to admit that Straw Hat Warrior was both skilled and sharp-minded. Yet, in the face of absolute power, clever tricks would mean nothing. "Since you're just a failed fighter now, why not become my nourishment instead?" After the match, half an hour later. Having changed out of his martial gear, Lin Youzi wandered down the commercial street. Reflecting on the day's battle, he felt he'd learned a lot. Sitting down at a roadside stall, he was just starting on some grilled skewers when a tap on his shoulder made him turn. It was that person from 2 days ago. The one who... Oh. Lin Youzi couldn't remember her name. Realizing his blank expression, she sighed in exasperation. "Don't tell me you forgot me, I'm the one who asked for your contact info, remember? You even let me hold your hand." He recognized her as the creepy girl, though her name escaped him. But no big deal. Maybe it was for the best. "Do you need something?" "Oh, not really. But since we ran into each other again, why not add me on social media?" "No thanks." Fishy let out a dramatic wail, acting playful and pouty. "Come on, just one friend request." Meanwhile, the viewers in her live stream chat cringed. What kind of streamer am I even following? This is so embarrassing. Fishy's been rejected again, poor thing. The girl is so cute, but her personality seems a bit difficult, lol. Seeing the mocking comments, Fishy glared at the screen. She blurted out a threat. "If I don't get Miss Pretty's contact info, you'll never see her on my stream again." Her viewers quickly changed their tone. "Please, Fishy, you have to get her contact info." Ignoring the exchange between Fishy and her chat, Lin Youzi's attention drifted to a deeper part of the commercial street. Something felt off. There was a faint metallic tang in the air, the unmistakable scent of blood. In the dark alley of the commercial street, Johnson was walking along, still nursing his anger over his defeat, when suddenly a group of men lunged at him with knives. With a few quick punches, he knocked several of them to the ground, then spat disdainfully. "So this is what Huayu's people are like. Pathetic, resorting to sneak attacks," he sneered. Losing to that Straw Hat Warrior in the ring was humiliating enough, but being ambushed by random thugs. Infuriating. From behind a nearby wall, Qian Wujin smirked. What an idiot. So even someone like this could be considered a realm peer. I wonder if the Lord of the Mystic Realm would reject such a worthless soul, he thought, amused. With that, he activated his skill. Passive skill, Greed Corruption. A pulse of power rippled through the air. The downed gamblers' eyes widened, their rational minds wiped clean. In eerie unison, they rose to their feet, twisting their bodies at unnatural angles. Johnson, oblivious, turned to exit the alley. Then, out of nowhere, a blade plunged into his side. Aff. Snarling in pain, he swung around and punched his attacker's head with such force that it practically exploded. How? I didn't even sense this guy coming. Under Qian Wujin's control, the gamblers moved with unnatural stealth, impossible to detect. Johnson's overconfidence was proving costly. As he looked up, he saw the gamblers advancing, their expressions blank and lifeless, like zombies. "I know someone's controlling you, show yourself." As a realm practitioner, Johnson's instincts were sharp enough to realize that ordinary people wouldn't be this coordinated without help. He remembered breaking these very people's bones minutes earlier, at a level that should have kept them bedridden for months. Yet now they were moving as if untouched, gripping their knives as they closed in on him. "Show yourself. I know you're a realm user. Stop hiding and face me." Behind the wall, Qian Wujin's smirk grew wider. "So, he really is a realm peer. Fine, then, this worthless soul is mine." The gamblers continued to close in on Johnson, who fought back furiously. But his fists couldn't keep up with the barrage of blades. Under Qian Wujin's control, they were like mindless soldiers, immune to pain and death. Knocked down, they simply stood back up, advancing without hesitation. That was the terror of greed corruption. Its victims became fearless puppets, indifferent to their own survival. Outside the alley, in the commercial street, Lin Youzi's gaze turned sharply toward the alley. "Blood." He spoke up, his tone calm but urgent. "You should head home. I smell blood, something bad is happening here." "Blood?" "I don't smell anything," Fishy replied, sniffing the air around her, catching only the scent of nearby food stalls. "It's there. Trust me. I'm a doctor, and I know the scent. There's been an incident." Doctor." Fishy blinked in surprise, taken aback by this unexpected side of him. But this was just an excuse. Lin Youzi wanted to get her out of harm's way. After the recent spate of strange attacks, he was almost certain there was an organized force behind it all. He took out his phone and discreetly dialed the authorities. Seeing him make the call, Fishy's expression grew serious, though she still sniffed the air as if trying to catch a whiff of the blood he claimed to smell. Still nothing. Maybe he just had some sort of hyper sense. In minutes, police officers arrived, looking more than a little worn down. Strange things were becoming all too common in this district, with an incident cropping up almost every 2 days. But this time was different. The caller had mentioned an actual crime scene, with a heavy stench of blood. This is different from an open assault on a martial artist in the street. In the previous incidents, no one was killed, but this time, it's different, someone has lost their life. In less than 5 minutes, several police cars arrived. Lin Youzi stepped forward voluntarily to explain the situation. The lead officer nodded, choosing to trust the citizens. He ordered everyone to get ready and led the way forward. Lin Youzi led the group, blending in with the officers while 2 of them guarded him. Seeing that Miss Sister had gone ahead, Sister Pian felt reluctant, wanting to leave. But her fans insisted she go along. "Hey, Sister Pian, if Miss Sister dares to go, why don't you? Are you chickening out? Miss Sister hasn't even claimed her video reward yet. Just go with her and watch from a distance. Hurry up. They're almost out of sight." When the officers arrived, the onlookers had grown used to such scenes and cleared a path, curiously watching the officers. What had happened? In the line of officers, Lin Youzi stopped in front of an alley, pointing toward the pitch-black entrance. With a serious expression, he said, "It's just up ahead." Inside the alley, Qian Wujin wore a playful smile. "I didn't expect it," the officers showed up fast. "Unfortunately, you're still too late." He gestured at a crazed gambler clutching Johnson, who looked miserable. Johnson was covered in blood, bruised, and one of his hands had been severed. It was the hand with a symbol on the back. The symbol acted as a relay for his powers. In this world of Mystic Realm Online, if the hand bearing the symbol was cut off, one could no longer use their powers. Now Johnson had lost his ability, and with his severe injuries, he was incredibly weak. "Don't worry, I'll help you feel better soon." He ordered the gambler to hold off the officers outside, while he began arranging a grand formation to absorb Johnson's soul. Mystic Realm, soul-absorbing formation. The human race in Mystic Realm had sold their souls to the realm's ruler, so their own souls were incomplete and needed replenishment from others who had achieved a similar state. The hand bearing the symbol plunged through Johnson's heart, and the coin-shaped symbol emitted a strange, dark red glow. Thump, thump. Thump, thump. The heartbeats resonated in rhythm with him. A blue soul began to leave Johnson's mouth. As it departed from his body, Qian Wujin activated his power, and the soul shattered into glimmers of light that flowed into his body. Amazing. It feels fantastic. Rumble. Thunder rumbled across the sky. Lin Youzi looked up, sensing that this was a sign from the heavens. Previously, the blue stars was busy striking at the fleeing werewolves with lightning. Now, it sensed a terrifying presence far away. In less than a second, it arrived, gathering lightning. A bolt of lightning struck down. The gambler who had just exited the alley was hit by the lightning, reduced to charred black remains. A gust of wind scattered the ashes. Something even more dangerous must be inside. Once Lin Youzi realized the heavens weren't targeting him, he knew something far worse was lurking within. What could it be? Back in the alley. Qian Wujin frowned as he looked up at the sky. Irritating blue star will, you won't be able to prevent the mystic realm's ruler from descending. He was taunting the heavens. Rumble. Thunder roared continuously. The heavens grew furious. The lightning intensified to its peak, and a massive black bolt struck down. The alley was leveled to the ground. Fortunately, no residents lived in the area. Otherwise, they too would have been reduced to ashes, scattered by the wind. And there, Qian Wujin's figure now appeared before the officers. This scene made the officers' pupils contract to pinpoints. He shouted with all his might. Run! Evacuate the area and call for backup. What could make him scream in shock? What could cause such an intense emotional reaction? It turned out. It was the sight of Qian Wujin's hand piercing straight through Johnson, right before his eyes. All around them, blood splattered everywhere. Severed limbs were scattered across the ground. It looked like a scene from hell. Such a figure could only be described as a sadistic killer. Behind the officers, Sister Pian also saw the scene. Just then, a breeze blew, lifting her hair and carrying a certain scent with it. The smell of blood. Ugh. It wasn't just the smell, she had also seen the horrifying sight. The live stream has been taken down due to suspected violations. The stream was shut down. The citizens who saw this horror fled in all directions. The martial artist stepped forward, taking on the responsibility of guiding and evacuating the civilians. Meanwhile, at a training base. Team 1, deploy. Yes, sir. Team 1, fully outfitted in military green cloaks, bore the unified insignia of the Azure Dragon Unit 1. Other units included Black Tortoise, Vermilion Bird, and White Tiger. Each unit had 9 divisions, but Azure Dragon Unit 1 was the strongest among the recruits. This 12-member team included 3 practitioners with special abilities. The commander watched them depart. As new recruits, they needed experience. They boarded a helicopter and headed out, though it was uncertain if they'd make it in time. Oh, so you all saw that? How unfortunate. And the lightning, it's just so annoying. Qian Wujin withdrew his hand. The soul absorption had just raised him to the first level of the Yellow Realm. Now, his power matched Lin Youzi's, though there was a difference. Lin Youzi had advanced through flawless progression, rather than a basic 9th-tier promotion. Ah, this feeling of power, Subarashii, he exclaimed, savoring the surge of strength as he clenched his fists. Even his status panel displayed a new skill. Passive skill, Wealth Hoard, the more coins possessed, the greater the strength. Every 10 coins raise his level by 1 tier. Ineffective beyond the Heavenly Realm. Now at the Yellow Realm's first level, his upgrade had instantly maxed out his coins. He had exactly 10 coins. Just enough to boost him to the Yellow Realm's second level. The officers fired their guns, but Qian Wujin dodged effortlessly. So, you're protecting this woman. She's the one who called the police, right? Quite the sharp nose. Such excellent natural talent, he sneered with a cruel smile. I just love killing gifted weaklings. He drew a knife, grinning wickedly as he advanced. Every bullet fired missed him. Moving with ghostly agility, he dodged from side to side, completely untraceable. But a rifle might be a different story. However, the officers were only armed with pistols, which lacked the speed. Fall back. The officers, rattled by this display of agility, felt their resolve waver. Never in their years of service had they encountered something so unbelievable. This killer was no ordinary human. Run, run, little ants. Pathetic humans, so weak. Allow me to grant you release on behalf of the Mystic Realm's ruler. The Mystic Realm's ruler. Lin Youzi's eyes narrowed. This man was somehow connected to Mystic Realm Online. Luckily, there was a weapons store nearby. Breaking away from the group, he dashed inside, grabbed a bow and arrow, and aimed right at Qian Wujin from the doorway. Whoosh! Compared to a bullet, the speed of an arrow could be even faster. True marksmanship. It hit. Qian Wujin's face darkened. That last arrow had grazed his cheek as it flew by. Cold sweat trickled down his back. Lucky for me, this guy's just an ordinary human without any powers, or I'd really be in trouble here. To tell who was normal and who wasn't, there were two key indicators: the presence of a symbol on the back of the hand, and whether attacks carried any special effects. Clearly, Lin Youzi's hand held no such symbol, and his attacks lacked the signature glow of a special ability. I should pull back for now. That soul absorption left my powers unstable. It definitely wasn't because he was scared or that he thought he'd lose to an ordinary human. After all, he'd mocked other practitioners who had been injured by ordinary people. If he were injured himself in the same way, he'd never hear the end of it. Better to retreat. He'd keep his pride intact. Even so, he couldn't leave without a final remark. With a wild grin, Qian Wujin sneered, "Heh, I'll admit, your archery's impressive." Whoosh! Another arrow came whizzing toward him in response. This one shot his hat clean off. Luckily, Qian Wujin had a fondness for tall hats. If he hadn't been wearing one, that arrow might have taken him out. Damn, what kind of archery is this? He dropped the act and took off at a sprint. Lin Youzi remained alert, his eyes scanning the surroundings. Whoop whoop whoop. The sound of helicopter blades filled the air. Qian Wujin glanced back, spotting the helicopter, and smirked before yelling with a mockingly disappointed tone, "If it weren't for your backup arriving, I'd have killed you all. This time, you get a pass. Next time, be prepared." Lin Youzi silently lowered his bow. The opponent was powerful. If it hadn't been for the advantage of long range against close combat, the outcome might have been very different. As Team Azure Dragon arrived, they asked about the incident and began inspecting the crime scene. "Captain, this person's soul is gone." "Yes, I noticed." The captain of Team 1, a practitioner himself, could tell that both were practitioners. For practitioners, the standard of death wasn't a lack of breath but the absence of a soul. With Johnson's soul now gone, he was officially dead. What could have led to this battle? The officers on the scene mentioned that, had they not been protected by citizens, they too would have been killed. To dodge bullets from a handgun, the enemy's strength was at least at the Yellow Realm level. According to organizational intel, only one person was reported to have reached that level. Could it be that someone had advanced to Yellow Realm within the past month? Impossible. Without the arrival of Mystic Realm Online, who could enhance their powers so drastically? Puzzled, the captain recorded his observations to submit to the organization for further analysis. He then approached Lin Youzi. Looking at this seemingly innocent young girl, his usually stoic face softened with a slight smile. "Hello." "Ah, hi. Your archery is impressive." "It's okay." "Who taught you?" "Our school security guard." "He's really good, his archery is amazing." Security guard?" The captain blinked, momentarily taken aback. He'd expected her to mention some prestigious archery family. Perhaps the Liu family, Wang family, Li family, or Shui family. Famed archers like Liu Bu, Wang Zhong, Li Guang, and Shui Rengui had set the bar high, their skills renowned. And yet, here she was saying she learned archery from a school guard. It left him unsure how to respond. "Ahem, it sounds like your school is full of hidden talents if even the security guards have archery skills of that level." "Yeah, totally. That was, actually confirmed." The captain paused. Looking at Lin Youzi's bright, innocent expression, he noticed her hand bore no symbol, meaning she was a regular person. Concerned she might face retaliation from that practitioner, he warned her. Try not to walk alone for the time being, understood? All right, thank you, Uncle. I'll be careful. Uncle. The captain stood silently. Sure, he kept a serious expression most of the time, but he wasn't even 40 yet, and here he was being called Uncle. Ah, if only she knew. Captain Guan would have something to say about this. He was in his 40s, and he'd been called Gramps by someone just the other day. Captain, it's different for me, I didn't choose this title, it was forced on me. Captain Guan, oh yeah. Who forced you? Captain. The brief cross-team banter ended. After giving his advice, the captain stayed on site with the officers as they wrapped things up. He watched as the police tape went up around the wreckage, and only then did they depart by helicopter. Miss, thank you so much for your help today. This gratitude was genuine. If Lin Youzi hadn't driven that person off with her 2 arrows, they would likely all be in a much worse situation. But Lin Youzi didn't seem to care much. After all, the danger was real for all of them. If she hadn't acted, they would have all been in serious trouble. Not wanting any fuss, she waved her hand, saying, "Oh, it was no trouble at all. Just a simple task for a concerned Wanqing citizen." Understood. I'll make sure to report your help accurately to the department. Where is your school located, by the way? We'd like to send you a banner of appreciation. Oh, that's not necessary, I'm not one for fame. All right, how about we give you a ride back? I still have a few things to take care of. Lin Youzi rejected the officer's offer 3 times. With no other option, he sighed and offered a final bit of advice. Well then, be careful and get home safely. The streets can be dangerous. Got it. As she watched the officers leave, Lin Youzi looked up at the sky. Dark and empty. Well, are you satisfied now? Or are you planning to rain on me? Rumble. The sky rumbled with thunder but held back the rain. How strange. Before, it had been almost targeting her, but now it seemed oddly agreeable. Well, if you're not going to rain, I'll head home. Rumble. Lightning flashed within the clouds, almost as if the sky were frustrated at her remark. All right, no need to get mad. Not bothering whether the heavens could actually hear her, she left the shopping district, caught a ride back to campus, and returned to her dorm. As for Sister Pian, she'd been taken away by one of the martial artists after witnessing the blood-soaked scene. Plus, the police had been evacuating the area, which was why the weapon shop's doors were wide open, allowing Lin Youzi to grab the bow for free. Back at the dorm, it was nearly 11, and she found her roommates, Lao Er and Lao San, downstairs, utterly drunk. They had lost their match, their spirits crushed, and now they were wailing and making a racket, oblivious to whether the neighboring building's residents might laugh at them. Lauda stood nearby, unsure how to comfort them. The fact that he'd managed to last 3 rounds was thanks only to the dark-robed figure showing mercy. His lofty ambitions had long since faded. He had once imagined himself reaching the top 100. But now he hadn't even made it into the official rounds. Boo-hoo. Yongchu, I'm so miserable, I got kicked out today. Mingren, I'm miserable too. Someone just kicked me right off the stage. Lao San, Sun Mingren, had been thrown off the stage by a massive opponent, barely able to put up a fight, just like a helpless chick. He'd watched, powerless, as he was eliminated. Meanwhile, Lao Er, Su Yongchu, had attempted to ambush his opponent near the edge of the ring. But his opponent had responded with a swift kick to his stomach, sending him flying off the stage. That, edge-fighting tactic, was just too dirty. Purposely luring the opponent in, then catching them off guard and knocking them off the stage. Curse that strawcoat fighter. Why do all their moves have to be so underhanded? Exactly. Many people had started to pick up the edge-fighting tactic used by the strawcoat fighter. Anyone wanting to take him on had to risk the chance of accidentally falling out of the ring. Today, once again, the strawcoat fighter won his match, even against the rising, free-fighting star, which only boosted his fame. Now, even more competitors were likely to imitate his strategy. It could be said that this one person had changed the entire style of the competition. Contestants were fighting more cautiously, strategizing rather than rushing in blindly. The elimination rate had slowed significantly. This caused no end of frustration for the competition chairman, who noticed he'd lost a few more hairs today. The official tournament rules were still being finalized, especially regarding weapon use, including bows and arrows. But now, the appearance of the edge fighting tactic was proving to be a new headache. The preliminary rules couldn't keep changing, after all. The chairman could only hope that upcoming contestants would step up and weed out these edge fighting imitators. And he silently prayed the strawcoat fighter wouldn't invent any new tricks. The last thing anyone needed was an even slower elimination rate. In the dormitory, strawcoat fighter Lin Youzi watched as his roommates, Lao Er and Lao San, poured out their frustrations, going on about how utterly unlucky they'd been today. It was understandable. After all, the gap between reality and their expectations was too big for anyone to accept right away. The more they vented, the more agitated they became, practically crying their hearts out. Lin Youzi was getting a headache. He still wanted to think through tonight's events carefully. Hoping to calm them down, he finally said, "All right, that's enough crying. This is just the start for you. Winning and losing are normal. There'll be more chances ahead, as long as you keep improving each time." He started giving examples. Like, Grandpa at the park, still filled with ambition despite his age, or the three-generation team, the Green Tights Watermelon Heads, who showed up to compete every year with the same unshakable spirit. You guys are still young. If you stick with it, you've got decades of tournaments ahead of you. Just keep your head up. If you let one little defeat get to you, how will you ever become true martial artists? This way of talking sounded oddly familiar to all three. It was just how that strawcoat fighter would talk. But Shaolin was right, they still had a chance. They couldn't help but admire Shaolin, who was kind enough to comfort them when they were feeling low. So thoughtful. Seeing them finally calm down, Lin Youzi rubbed his temples and headed upstairs. Tonight's events had been exhausting. Mentally exhausting. Too many unanswered questions. Like, what exactly was this ruler of the mystic realm? He couldn't figure it out. Maybe he should ask him. And who was he? He was. Peerless handsome guy, are you there? I had an encounter tonight and need some advice. The reply came almost instantly. Can't draw a circle, what happened? Peerless handsome guy, well, here's the thing. Lin Youzi sent over a description of the night's events, with a few details edited for privacy. After reading handsome guy's message, Lin Youzi had a sense of déjà vu. Thinking it over, it suddenly clicked. This must be the Wanqing dismemberment case. No wonder it sounded familiar. Could she have actually been there and witnessed it firsthand? Realizing this possibility, a hint of worry crossed Lin Youzi's mind. Can't draw a circle, did you actually see this happen in person? Peerless handsome guy, yeah, the guy was super creepy, totally murderous. Lin Youzi couldn't help but lift his head, his mind filling with an image of her in the mystic realm online, her character Lin Youzi looking vulnerable as she shared this. His heart melted at the thought. He wished he could hear her say that out loud in her own voice. It must sound absolutely adorable. No, no, no. Lin Youzi is normally such a serious guy, he wouldn't normally think this way. Shaking off his initial impressions, he refocused and sent a suggestion. Can't draw a circle, if it's not necessary, maybe you should avoid going to the tournament site too much. I've been following the news over there, there's something happening almost every other day. Can't draw a circle, it doesn't seem very safe. Can't draw a circle, if you really need to go, try to stick with friends, more people around is better. Peerless handsome guy, alright, got it. Thanks. After putting his phone down, Lin Youzi sighed and fell back onto his bed, staring at the ceiling thoughtfully. His online friend definitely knew something, but just wouldn't say it. Could it be due to some kind of restriction? What Lin didn't realize was that Lin Youzi, far from suspecting his motives, was entirely oblivious to his subtle probing. Right from the start, he'd seen Lin as a pure and straightforward girl, someone without ulterior motives. Lin had never considered her words might hold hidden meanings, nor had he even thought to analyze them. In his line of work, Lin longed to find a genuine, uncomplicated partner, someone he could trust wholeheartedly. That simplicity, combined with the distance of an online connection, had only made him idealize Lin even more. In his manner, Lin Youzi put away his phone and stepped into the shower. As the water splashed around him, a growing unease settled in. The power levelers are getting restless, he murmured to himself. Why hasn't there been any action from above? If these rogue power levelers were left unchecked, they would undoubtedly spark public fear. In the small villa. After lying in bed for a while, Lin Youzi finally closed his eyes, though a strange feeling lingered in his stomach. He'd noticed this odd sensation creeping up over the past few days. Maybe it was from eating too many snacks. Still, it felt off. He'd even found himself craving snacks more than usual. Could overeating really cause this? He couldn't figure it out, and soon, the quiet night overtook him. Elsewhere on the same night. On another stretch of land, Qian Wujin sat in his smoke-filled casino office. It was late, but the casino was bustling, lights blazing, and the air thick with noise and tension. In the main hall, gamblers with bloodshot eyes fixed their gaze on the roulette wheel, obsessively watching the spinning ball. Damn it. Just missed again. One of them cursed, giving the machine a shake before noticing the tattooed, bald enforcer nearby. He quickly swallowed his anger and continued gambling. At first, the casino lured players in with free chips. If they lost, they'd have to pay up. If they won, however, they were told that any earnings didn't count because the chips had been given for free. Some, lucky enough to keep their wits about them, might walk away. But many became lost to the allure of the game, buying chips and betting real money until they lost all sense of control, becoming fixtures of the casino. Watching through the surveillance feed, Qian Wujin took a drag from his cigar. The night had been going smoothly until an unexpected woman threw his plan into chaos, forcing him to retreat in a way that still felt humiliating. No, he corrected himself, it wasn't a retreat. It was a strategic withdrawal due to the arrival of reinforcements. He crushed his cigar into the ashtray, adjusted his suit, and habitually reached up to straighten his glasses. Suddenly, his hand froze. Damn it. He turned, glaring at his hat. Right in the middle was a gaping hole. This outfit wasn't cheap, 24K gold-rimmed glasses, a limited edition crocodile skin hat, all from the latest fall collection. And now, it was ruined. Grinding his teeth, he muttered, just wait until I catch you. When I do, you'll regret it. With his ruined outfit, Qian Wujin lost interest in the remaining pieces. He didn't want to wear anything that wasn't a full set, it just didn't feel right. He decided to wait for the winter collection. As for where his money came from. In the surveillance room. Gleeful gamblers filled the screens. Now, it was obvious how the money flowed in. Wealth was like water, left in the sun, it would evaporate. The best way to preserve it was to keep it hidden, safely out of sight, minimizing trouble and ensuring a steady flow. Dawn of a new day. After last night's Wan City Commercial Center dismemberment incident, nighttime patrols had become standard, with increased police presence and even some martial artists volunteering for extra vigilance. But with nightly disturbances, fewer people dared visit that particular street, leading to substantial economic losses. Nevertheless, the martial arts tournament continued. After 20 days, the preliminary rounds concluded. As expected, a large number of competitors had been eliminated. Just before the main competition was set to begin, organizers announced that new rules would be posted on the official website. Competitors were encouraged to review them carefully. Additionally, those who required specific weapons could apply for them using the new tournament pass, available only to those who survived the preliminaries. Out of hundreds of thousands of entrants, fewer than 50,000 remained. With the main rounds approaching, the rules shifted from elimination matches to a points-based system, where the lowest-ranking participants would face elimination each round, ensuring that luck alone wouldn't be enough. And among those eagerly watched was none other than the infamous Straw Raincoat Warrior. Since that memorable day, the Raincoat Warrior seemed unstoppable. Initially cautious with his two blades, he quickly gained confidence, running after his opponents, swinging wildly with his twin knives. If someone dodged, he'd even throw the blades and switch to his spear, jabbing with reckless abandon. One unforgettable incident cemented his reputation. During a match, an opponent stumbled while attempting to dodge, leaving a vulnerable target exposed just as the Raincoat Warrior's spear came thrusting forward. The spear hit its mark in the most unfortunate of places. From that moment, Zone 16 became known as the Scented Ring. Wielding his spear with special effects, the Raincoat Warrior became a terror on the field. competitors began leaping off the stage voluntarily rather than risk facing him, including a previous top 100 contestant from last year. In an interview afterward, the defeated competitor admitted, "I have a thing about cleanliness. If that enhanced weapon touched me, I'd rather die." With each match, the Raincoat Warrior's style grew wilder. His antics became more elaborate, evolving from a mysterious master into the petty hero you can't stand but can't defeat. Every move seemed to target his opponent's weakest points. Some sharp-eyed viewers noticed that while his close combat skills were solid, his knife and spear techniques were erratic at best, relying on sheer unpredictability. The local audience, increasingly invested, began online voting for superlatives among the competitors. The title of luckiest competitor went to none other than Lin Youzi, while the coveted, or reviled, title of most annoying competitor was unanimously awarded to the Straw Raincoat Warrior. 7 days of rest, a time to recharge. The week-long break between rounds was a relief for most competitors. Lin Youzi, however, took it as a chance to double down on his training. After surviving the grueling 20-day preliminary rounds, he headed home immediately, determined to refine his skills. His 2 roommates, who hadn't advanced, took the loss in stride. After a few days of rest, they were back to basics, training in the dorm's front yard. But they hadn't let go of their original plan. They'd officially begun Project Lin Crowstress. Little did they know that Lin Youzi actually had a few dresses tucked away in his closet. He sometimes took them out when he was alone, curious but never daring to wear them. After all, as he saw it, he was a real man, a tough guy, who'd never willingly wear a skirt, right? "Wait, you two want me to join a club and act in a play?" "Yeah. Every freshman should join a club. You haven't really lived the college life until you do," they urged, layering on all kinds of persuasive tactics. Lin Youzi pondered. In his previous life, he hadn't joined any clubs, so maybe it was time to try it. Besides, they were right, college wouldn't feel complete without the full experience. After all, he only had a year left before Mystic Realm Online would change everything. He'd be more than a student after that, so why not make some good memories now? With these thoughts, he agreed. "All right, I'll join." "Yes." His roommates cheered. "Here's the club application form. We already spoke to the president, just fill it out, and you're in." Okay, Lin couldn't understand why they seemed more excited than he was. The form itself was simple, with only 3 questions. 1. Do you agree to participate in club activities? 2. In case of conflict between club activities and personal life, which would you prioritize? 3. If the club organizes a play, would you be willing to take on a role? Given his decision to join, he answered honestly, marking each box. 1. Agree. 2. Prioritize personal life. 3. Willing. There, done. Is that it? Yep, all set. The form was mainly for record-keeping. Clubs, other than the student council, were easy to join. His roommates dashed out of the dorm with the form in hand, claiming they needed to deliver it immediately to the senior in charge. Why the rush? Lin wondered. It's not like I'm going to back out. He sighed. Didn't they know the saying, a gentleman's word is his bond? As the day wore on, Lin waited downstairs, expecting his roommates to return, but with no sign of them and lunchtime approaching, he took out his phone and messaged. Not coming back. Did you guys eat already? Yeah, go ahead without us. All right. After putting his phone away, he couldn't shake the feeling that they were up to something mysterious. But, brushing it off, he stood up, only to feel a brief wave of dizziness. Unseen to him, a faint light glowed on his pedal mark. He shrugged it off, attributing it to low blood pressure, then grabbed a hat to shield himself from the sun and headed out. October's sun wasn't as intense as in summer, though he kept his usual precautions with his hat and UV protective sleeves. When he reached the cafeteria, he glanced at the budget dining area on the first floor, hesitating as memories of past incidents resurfaced. Not wanting any trouble, he headed to the second floor, where he didn't need to use his 30% discount card. Yet, the moment he stepped into the second-floor dining area, he spotted a large group of martial arts students gathered together for lunch. Hopefully, they didn't see me, Lin thought, anxious to avoid attention. Among the crowd was a familiar face he wasn't ready to deal with. But, as luck would have it, the more he tried to avoid them, the more inevitable the encounter became. "Hey, Xiao Lin. Over here," someone called. Pretending not to hear, he turned quickly and started down the stairs. Huh? Wasn't that Lin Youzi just now? Why'd he leave so suddenly? Of course, I can recognize Lin Youzi. Shurifang clenched her fists, fuming. "You're good, aren't you?" she thought to herself, "disguising yourself, playing tricks on me, huh? Just wait till I catch you." Over the past 20 days, even Shurifang, no matter how dense, had pieced together that Lin Youzi, whom she'd been tirelessly searching for, was now somehow her classmate. She hadn't shared this discovery with anyone, though. All she wanted was to confront Lin directly, to find out why he'd changed so drastically and if he'd recognized her that rainy night. "I'm not hungry anymore, you guys go ahead," Shurifang muttered, rising from her seat and swiftly following him downstairs. On the first floor, just as Lin Youzi was starting to feel relieved, a voice dripped with irritation called out behind him. "Lin Youzi, why'd you stop running? Keep going." He forced himself to stay calm, trying to ignore her. "Don't pretend you didn't hear me," she continued. "Why haven't you contacted your family in a year? And why do you look so different now? What, did you skip class to get plastic surgery?" Still trying to maintain his composure, Lin answered, "I think you've got the wrong person." "Oh, really? In that case, maybe I should call Grandpa Lin over here." That hit a nerve, and Lin Youzi stiffly turned around, finally facing her. After a moment's hesitation, he spoke. "Fine. I'll tell you what's going on. Here's the truth." But just as he was about to reveal everything, time itself seemed to freeze. A surreal sensation took over, and everything around him began to rewind. The 7 petals on Lin's shoulder glowed brightly, and in an instant, a flash of white light enveloped him. Drip. A single droplet fell from a faucet, breaking the silence. Gasp. Lin Youzi jolted awake, gasping for air, his pupils contracting as he looked around frantically. He was back in his dorm, sitting on the couch as if nothing had happened. But what just happened? Meanwhile, upstairs in the cafeteria, Shurifang stood still, looking at her hands in confusion. For a split second, she'd sensed the presence of a powerful time reversal ability. Who had dared use such an advanced skill before Mystic Realm Online had even arrived? Weren't they worried about the side effects? Strangely, though, she felt like she'd forgotten something important. The cost of power. Of course, there were side effects. Activating the 7th petal was a price Lin Youzi paid to unlock this ability. Before, the 7th petal had remained dormant, but his intense regret about leaving his dorm triggered its activation. With this, Lin's ability, the Mirror of Time and Space, rewound events to the moment he most wished he hadn't left, right before he'd walked out the door. The Mirror of Time and Space created a separate timeline for Lin, enabling him to reverse interactions and events in this isolated pocket of time. Now, he'd successfully rewound time, avoiding the exposure of his identity. But there was more. The ability also sealed away memories of anyone who interacted with Lin. Unless he consciously chose to erase those memories, they would eventually delete themselves after a month, and then slowly return to the people they'd been taken from. For now, the crisis was averted. No one knew the truth about him, and his identity was safe. After calming down, Lin began comparing the effects of using the Mirror of Time and Space in reality versus how it had worked in Mystic Realm Online. Slowly, it dawned on him. So, it really happened. Shurifang has already discovered the truth. Whatever, I'll just delay it as long as I can. For now, he decided to keep those memory fragments in stasis instead of deleting them entirely. He still wasn't sure how to face Shurifang, so stalling was his only option. Normally, as the top-ranked player, Lin would have immediately drawn the attention of Blue Star's Wolf for using such a powerful ability. But this time, it allowed him to rewind time without interference, almost as if granting him a rare reprieve. Checking his Mystic Realm Online interface, Lin noticed a new skill added to his character sheet. Active skill, Origin Trace, consumes spiritual energy to create a personal, isolated space. Within this space, one can use energy to jump to any previous point in time. The longer the jump, the greater the energy required. When energy runs out, the user will exit this space. Note, after a time jump, the user can extract the memories of any individuals encountered who have interacted with the user's current identity within this space. These memories can then be preserved or deleted as needed. Explanation: in Space A, Lin Youzi uses his ability to create a private Space B. In Space B, Lin's actions mimic those he'd take in Space A. If he encounters a crisis in Space B, he can choose to rewind to a safer moment. Alternatively, he can simply wait for Space B to dissolve, at which point he will seamlessly reappear in Space A. If he chooses to rewind successfully, he can selectively extract the memories of anyone he interacted with in Space B, temporarily storing or deleting them. Once their memories are extracted, they will lose any recollection of his identity. For example, if Shurifang had deduced that her classmate Lin Youzi was indeed the same Lin Youzi she had been seeking, after memory extraction, she would lose those pieces of the truth. She'd also forget any interactions with him that occurred within Space B. However, exceptions exist for power levelers. Shurifang, with her extensive combat experience as the Valkyrie from a previous life, sensed the distortion of time-space reversal. She'd never encountered such an ability in her past life, making her wonder if her rebirth had somehow altered the course of the world. Could it be the so-called butterfly effect? And if she was one butterfly, then perhaps there was another one out there. In fact, that other butterfly was currently lounging on the sofa, too nervous to venture outside for fear of encountering Shurifang again. But if he didn't go out, he'd miss lunch. So, he settled on the idea of taking a nap instead, hoping it would reduce his energy needs. One day wasted out of a 7-day break, so be it. Elsewhere, Lin's second and third roommates were busy having lunch with a senior. Their host, Gong Sini, was the president of both the detective club and drama club. Highly analytical and a natural leader, Gong Sini was also known for his strong-willed nature and dislike of opposition. His dream was to become a renowned detective, inspired by detective stories from Neon that had captivated him and his family in childhood. Driven by this shared family ambition, Gong Sini carried himself with a reserved demeanor. After accepting Lin's application form, he carefully tucked it into his briefcase and straightened his tie. Though wearing a tie for lunch seemed over the top, he seemed to consider it a mark of success. With his hands clasped in an intense expression, he addressed the roommates. "Next month, on Singles Day, we'll be staging a play," he announced. "You two will write the script." "Ah, what? No way, we don't know how to write," they replied, stunned. They had only joined the club to kill time and maybe see Lin in costume. They had no intention of becoming club leaders. But Gong Sini frowned slightly at their refusal. Though fully capable of writing it himself, he disliked rejection. As a self-proclaimed detective, he was confident in his decisions and wouldn't take no for an answer. Insisting it was a chance for newcomers, he replied with a firm tone, "It's simple. Just emphasize the theme of being single. You can focus on brotherhood or family bonds." Unintentionally, Gong Sini's guidance stretched on for over half an hour. "There's plenty of time," he said, glancing at his watch. "Today is only October 29th, so there are still a few weeks left before Singles Day. I'm confident you can manage. Don't let me down." Finally, he checked his watch again and concluded, "It's already 1 o'clock. I have another meeting to get to, so I'll be going now." Rising to his feet, Gong Sini picked up his tray and left the cafeteria without hesitation, leaving the second and third roommates sitting there, staring at their barely touched meals, their appetites completely gone. "How are we supposed to write a script? We've never done anything like this," groaned the second roommate. "Did we just shoot ourselves in the foot with this one?" "Probably." Sighing, the second roommate rubbed his stomach, which still grumbled in hunger. But the food was cold now, and neither of them felt like eating anymore. "Let's head back, maybe buy some groceries on the way. We can cook something for dinner." "Yeah, maybe Lin will help us out with the script if we ask him over dinner." Meanwhile, Lin was taking a nap. In his dreams, Shurifang appeared, proof that what occupies one's thoughts by day often finds its way into the night. After just having used Origin Trace, she was the first thing he saw in his dream. In his vision, Shurifang's face was streaked with tears as she clutched his clothes with both hands. "I've liked you for so long. Did you really not know? Why are you always avoiding me? 18 years, don't tell me you never felt anything at all." Seeing her so heartbroken, Lin Youzi was silent. In his past life, he might have been moved, even felt something more. But this life was different. With the impending danger, there was no room for romance and emotional entanglements. 1,000 thoughts surged through his mind, but all of them distilled down to a single sentence. I'm sorry. His past affection had died along with his former self. Turning away from her, he walked towards a distant battlefield, draped in black, a sharp blade at his waist. As his hand rested on the hilt, the weapon let out a faint hum. You're eager for battle too, aren't you? He murmured, releasing her grasp and striding resolutely towards the flames of war. Don't go. Shuri Fang shouted desperately. I was wrong, I never should have doubted you. I'm so sorry, so sorry. In her regret, she questioned why she had been so proud in the past, why she couldn't have been a bit softer, a bit more open. Maybe then, Lin Youzi wouldn't have died. Dreams are strange things, pulling one through a spectrum of emotions: helplessness, fear, joy, sorrow, and even the sense of absolute freedom. Sometimes, two people could even share the same dream. As Lin woke up, he whispered softly, as if speaking to someone, "That's my answer, do you understand?" Meanwhile, in the nearby girls' dormitory, Shuri Fang awoke with a start. Tears streamed down her face as she murmured, heartbroken, "I don't believe it, why?" For those with a warrior spirit, dreams sometimes felt like glimpses into the future. Did his rejection in her dream mean she truly had no chance? Was the world really this cruel, offering no path for redemption? In her dream, she had finally voiced her feelings, only to be met with refusal. For the first time, she had cried openly, casting aside the pride of the Valkyrie. In her past life, she had let go, never finding the courage to express her feelings because of her pride. And now, though they'd grown up together and shared a lifelong bond, he was no longer the same person. Outside, October painted the world in deep autumn hues. Soon, the maple leaves would turn a brilliant red, but who knew when he'd see them like this again? Today's events had left quite an impact on Lin Youzi. He sat up on the bed, legs stretched out at an angle, one hand propping himself up, his hair falling over his shoulder, and his robe slightly disheveled. He had the languid look of a beauty just woken from sleep, exuding a soft, effortless allure. After checking his character panel, he noticed a new active skill added to his list. So, he thought with a slight smile, maybe he was no longer a helpless rookie after all. Not bad. The sun's already setting, he murmured. Sunset always seemed to amplify feelings of melancholy, and he couldn't help but wonder if she was also watching it now. Maybe you'll understand someday, he thought. If Mystic Realm Online weren't looming, if this were his past life, he might have embraced their childhood bond. But now, all he could do was accept they were destined for different paths. He changed into some comfortable, loose clothes and headed downstairs. There, he found his two roommates sprawled out on the couch, fast asleep. In front of them was a laptop, the screen filled with lines of text. It looked like they had been writing. Writing was hard work, why would they put themselves through that? And why had they fallen asleep downstairs instead of in their rooms? Just then, their phone alarms blared, jolting both of them awake. Eyes still shut, they groaned and stretched, twisting and contorting like zombies in the middle of some eerie transformation. Ah! They let out long, drawn-out yawns, then, eyes still bleary, the second roommate noticed Lin Youzi standing there and froze, immediately nudging the third roommate. The third, still in his zombie mode, yawned loudly until he too saw Lin Youzi standing there, which abruptly stopped his yawn mid-stretch. He froze, his expression stuck awkwardly, half yawn, half surprise. After an awkward pause, he stammered, Lin, how long have you been there? Right before your alarm went off. You guys seem pretty flexible, huh? Those stretches were impressive. Care to show me a few more? Lin's smile was mischievous, his eyes narrowing slightly. They exchanged a glance, feeling increasingly certain that Lin was like a sly fox, always amused by their antics. Ahem, the second roommate coughed, trying to play it cool. That was just us stretching, you know. Every man does it, right, Suyongchu? Right, Sun Mingren's got a point. Totally normal. Lin chose not to comment on their defense. Instead, he changed the topic. When did you two get back? Suyongchu's enthusiasm deflated immediately. Around 1. He slumped over the table, clearly exhausted. This task had turned out to be a lot more complicated than they'd expected. Is it that bad? Lin asked, glancing at Sun Mingren, who looked similarly defeated. Sun Mingren filled him in on their new responsibility. A few minutes later, Lin was covering his mouth, trying to stifle his laughter. So, let me get this straight, you two are supposed to write a script for a play on Singles Day. Well, good luck with that. His laughter only intensified, adding to their embarrassment. Hold on, Lin, Sun Mingren interrupted, his tone serious. Don't laugh too soon, you're in the play too. Me. Lin's laughter faded, and he pointed to himself, eyes wide in surprise. It was oddly endearing. No, they couldn't let themselves be swayed by that look. With a firm nod, Soo-young-chu replied, exactly. You're part of the club too. If there's a performance, you can't escape it. Is that so? Lin began to think it over, rubbing his chin thoughtfully. Seeing Lin's thoughtful expression, the two roommates began to worry he might refuse. Just as they were about to persuade him, he burst out laughing again. Ha ha. Sure, if I have to join, so be it. I'm actually curious to see what kind of script you two can come up with. He chuckled as he strolled toward the door. Turning back, he asked, I'm going to grab some food. You guys coming? No need, they replied quickly. We didn't eat lunch either, so we bought ingredients. We're planning to cook here. Oh. I didn't have lunch either. All right then, let's all eat together. That's what we were hoping for. Soo-young-chu said, practically bouncing to the fridge to pull out the ingredients. Sun Mingren, meanwhile, couldn't help but ask, but why didn't you eat lunch? His mind was already spinning with assumptions, convinced that Lin had skipped lunch because they hadn't been there to eat with him. Lin gave them a look, clearly not eager to explain. It's complicated. Oh, come on, tell us. We're curious. Yeah, just a short version. Lin sighed, feigning annoyance. Do you two still want to eat my cooking? Of course. We'll shut up about it. They backed down immediately. Satisfied, Lin huffed, turning back to prepare dinner while they settled onto the couch, pretending to review their laptop. In reality, they were chatting through messages. Did you see how Lin was acting just now? So cute. I know, right? It's too much. Upon reading this, Sun Mingren looked over at his roommate with a serious expression and typed quickly. Young-chu, don't do anything rash. What are you even talking about? I just had a spark of inspiration. I know how to write the script now. With newfound seriousness, the two got to work on their play's outline. The script. Once upon a time, a college couple was deeply in love. They rented an apartment together, moving in as soon as they started school. Over time, however, little things piled up, small annoyances, daily arguments. The guy found himself exhausted, and slowly, his feelings started to fade. One night, he confided in a close friend, who took him out for drinks. They drank too much, and in a moment of drunken bravado, he decided it was best to break up and set them both free. Fueled by alcohol, he called her and ended things. Not long after, his girlfriend arrived, overhearing the drunken conversation. She quietly dropped off her things and, without a word, blocked him on all her social media accounts before walking away with tears in her eyes. The next morning, he awoke with a pounding headache and, remembering the night before, rushed back to the apartment. There, he found it empty, her things gone, and every photo of them cut to remove her from the frame. In that moment, he broke down. Cue the entrance of his friend, who handed him a bottle, initiating a new drinking celebration, one of singlehood and freedom. Well. How's that? Soo-young-chu asked, looking to his friend for approval. But Sun Mingren rolled his eyes, unimpressed. Young-chu, your motives are obvious. You're just trying to create a chance to play the boyfriend, aren't you? Soo-young-chu looked momentarily flustered, but before he could defend himself, Sun Mingren grinned and added, unless I get to play the lead. Then it sounds like a great script. Get lost. Keep dreaming, Soo replied with a laugh, shoving his friend playfully. Just as the two roommates were arguing over who would play the lead, Lin Youzi appeared, carrying a tray of food. What are you guys talking about? He asked. Nothing. Soo-young-chu responded quickly, closing the laptop, unplugging it, and even shutting down the power in 3 swift steps. Sun Mingren watched in awe at his friend's agility. This coward, Sun thought. Clearly, I'll have to write the script myself. After all, I'm the brave one here. For now, though, food took priority. They ate, then Sue and Sun volunteered to wash the dishes, leaving Lin free to go upstairs and rest. Lately, Lin Youzi had started noticing that his body was feeling off. Worryingly off. His little friend seemed to have gone numb, and his chest felt strangely sore and tight. No way. A terrible thought surfaced in his mind. He'd noticed it in the shower too. 7 of the petals on his shoulder were now fully lit, and the 8th petal was showing color around its edges. Each time he looked, his unease grew. Am I actually turning into a woman? As he thought about the strange changes his body had been experiencing, and the fact that holy water's blessing hadn't activated to counteract them, he became convinced these symptoms weren't just a temporary condition. Especially his face. When he compared his current reflection to old photos, he hardly recognized the handsome guy he once was. This was bad. Then, he remembered the flirty comments he'd been jokingly exchanging with his online friend. Oh no, he might actually take those things seriously. For some reason, a sudden anxiety washed over him, and he nervously opened their chat history. What is all this stuff? He thought as he scrolled through. Messages like, "I'll let you spank me," stared back at him. Why did I even type this? Feeling increasingly panicked, he hesitated before finally typing a message. Peerless handsome guy, you there? Can't draw a circle, I'm here. Almost immediately, Lin placed a call, clearing his throat and lowering his voice to make it sound as deep as possible. Hey. He added a bit of a raspy tone to it, sounding almost gravelly. There was a pause on the other end. Yin Yanzhou, momentarily stunned, cringed a little, wondering what sort of strange tone this big bro was using this time. Yes, I'm here, who is this? Yin asked, still bewildered. Lin deepened his voice further. I'm the one who called you. You don't know who I am. Are you, peerless handsome guy? Yin's shock was obvious. How could someone who looked so good have a voice so rough? Coughing, he asked, what's with your voice? You sound kinda hoarse. Hoarse? This is just how I sound, all right. Always have. Yin Yanzhou's unease grew. His lips trembled as he tentatively asked, wait, are you a guy or a girl? Of course I'm a guy. A real man. Yin's suspicion grew. I don't believe it. You're using a voice changer, aren't you? Voice changer? Are you kidding me? I'm all man. Want me to prove it? I'll pull it out, and it'll be bigger than yours. Lin was doing everything possible to clear up any future misunderstandings. Mystic Realm Online was coming, and if he did end up, somehow, transforming, he couldn't risk leaving any misconceptions. Because, what if he really did change one day? To cut ties completely with the past was now essential. Though he truly cherished his friends, there was no other option. People part ways eventually. That's just life. Or, as the saying goes, no banquet under heaven lasts forever. I'm calling to tell you some good news, Lin Youzi said. What is it? On the other end of the line, Yin Yanzhou's Dao heart had been shaken, and he was sinking into a state of dejection. Confusion, frustration, anger, they surged within him, emotions churning and fueling his inner power. Any moment, the tyrant ability would be unleashed. Unexpectedly, his first manifested power was tyrant and not conqueror. Holding himself back, he clenched his fists and coldly waited to hear what Lin Youzi had to say. I found a girlfriend. She's beautiful, and she's actually my childhood friend. She followed me all the way to school, and we're together now. Lin spoke as gently as possible, feeling a twinge of guilt toward Shurifang. But he had to do this, he needed a reason to show Yin Yanzhou that all their previous chats had just been jokes. He'd have to borrow Shurifang's name for the sake of believability. Anything to avoid being cornered. Is that so? Congratulations. The tone was icy, and Lin could tell he was furious. But a clean break was all he could offer. Thanks. Well, that's all I wanted to say. Also, please delete our chat history. My girlfriend doesn't like me talking to others, even guys. Understood. Lin Youzi clenched his fists, fury boiling over. One last question gnawed at him, and he couldn't hold back. That Mystic World character panel you showed me, was that really you? Of course not. It was just a random pic from online. Who'd seriously play a game as a female character? I see. The phone shattered in his grip. A furious punch from him landed on his bedside table, splitting it with a resounding crack. The table, I'm cracking up. I'm literally cracking up. Can't you punch something else? But the damage didn't stop there. His bedside lamp was smashed, too. The lamp. A red aura surged around him as the Tyrant ability activated. In an instant, blue stars will appeared above the mansion, ready to strike with thunder. But sensing this person's connection to the first anomaly it had marked as an ally, it dispersed the clouds. Fine, I'll let it go this time. In the will's judgment, the first anomaly, Lin Youzi, was benevolent, and by extension, anyone connected to her was, too. Thus, Lin Youzi was spared the thunderbolt. Yet in a strange twist of fate, the encounter had triggered his tyrant state. His black hair lengthened, blowing in the invisible wind, a dark suit of armor manifesting on him, complete with a blood-red cloak. His eyes gleamed with a savage cruelty, cold and unfeeling. On his character panel, a line of text appeared. Tyrant, gradual drain of mana, entering Tyrant state, unlocked. In this state, the armor enveloping him was Tyrant's spirit armor. In the Blue Star OL character panel, one couldn't see exact mana values. Lin Youzi could only rely on intuition to gauge how much he had left. In this form, he felt he had about 5 minutes before his energy would run out. Seething with rage, he extended his hand, and from his spirit energy, a weapon materialized, a long halberd fitting for a tyrant. With a swift swing, he slashed through the walls of his room. The walls gave way, split by a fierce red aura. The butler, who had rushed into the courtyard at the sound of the commotion, watched solemnly as the walls were torn apart. He immediately dialed his master. Master, the young lord's ability has awakened. Judging by his form, it's the tyrant spirit armor. On the other end of the line, the father's breathing grew heavier before a deep, authoritative voice replied. Have everyone evacuate. I'll be there shortly. Yes, sir. In the exclusive circles, possessing a Mystic World OL character panel was no secret. Each member had strategies in place, and these were not just any use but privileged sons, members of the inner circle. When news broke that Lin Youzi had triggered his tyrant spirit armor, not only did his father show up, but high-ranking military figures were also present. Among them, a 5-star general in an olive green coat arrived. With sharply chiseled features, he radiated a cool, commanding aura. General, the head of the Lin family greeted him. The general nodded, his voice deep and serious. Why did Xiaoyin's ability trigger early? And as the tyrant, of all things, that completely derails our plan. We're as surprised as you, General, the family head replied, though he knew they had been aiming for Lin Youzi to unlock the Conqueror's spirit armor first. That would have positioned him to enter the military ranks directly and lead special units, with a real chance to replicate the ancient might of the Conqueror himself. The power of the 9 cauldrons was a powerful enhancement skill, allowing one's strength to multiply 9-fold, a series of abilities under the Conqueror legacy that could prove invaluable when the Mystic World merged with Earth. But with the Tyrant spirit armor emerging instead, the Conqueror's spirit armor was now unlikely to manifest. In the game, Lin Youzi had played for ages without unlocking either armor, hinting that these spirit armors could only awaken on Earth itself. The upper-level think tanks had already worked out many insights, privileges only accessible to those within the circle. The general spoke firmly. Let's cool him down first, then I'll go up and test his power. With that, his olive green coat flapped as though caught in a gust, and he levitated slowly off the ground. Temporal slow. In an instant, the time around Lin Youzi decelerated, making everything around him appear to move at blinding speed from his perspective. The general murmured again, temporal speed. A soft white glow enveloped the general, slowing down the environment around him while boosting his own movements. Temporal slow, active skill target one individual, slowing their time perception up to 10-fold. Temporal speed, active skill target oneself or another, speeding up time perception up to 10-fold. With both skills activated, the general's actions appeared amplified to 100-fold speed in Lin Youzi's perception. Even with the tyrant armor's 5-fold stat boost, Lin Youzi couldn't match the general's sheer velocity. The general's goal was simple: stall until the tyrant armor's effects wore off. 5 minutes passed, and Lin Youzi hadn't landed a single strike with his halberd. Exhausted, his spirit energy depleted, his spirit armor dissolved into a scattering of red sparks. Panting, he tried to steady himself. Without adequate physical conditioning, the tyrant armor drained him. "You need more training," the general remarked, patting him on the shoulder before walking away. Yin's father surveyed the shattered room, noting the significant damage from just 5 minutes of the tyrant armor's power. Even without manifesting the full arsenal of 5 skills or expansion techniques, the 5-fold increase in all stats caused an unimaginable level of destruction. "How do you feel?" his father asked. "Dad, I'm completely drained," Lin Youzi replied, feeling as if his entire energy had been sapped away, with dizziness clouding his vision, a clear sign of spirit energy depletion. His father, experienced as ever, signaled to the butler, who promptly offered a small vial. Confused, Lin Youzi looked to his father. "This is a new regenerative pill the upper ranks developed. It should help with the exhaustion." "All right, I'll try it." Opening the vial, he inhaled the potent herbal aroma, popping the pills one by one, each as crisp as a roasted soybean. The medicinal essence coursed through him, instantly alleviating the dizziness. Though his fatigue lingered, he felt notably revived. "Could it be that my kidneys are overworked?" Lin Youzi felt a flicker of panic. In that tyrant state, he'd retained logical judgment but lost every trace of human emotion. Seeing that his son was recovering, the head of the Lin family pulled a key from his pocket and tossed it over, saying, "Since you've wrecked this place, head over to the villa I keep in Wuhan City and stay there for a while." "But Dad, what about my tournament?" "You don't need to compete anymore. Now that your spirit armor has appeared, the tournament won't add any value for you." "Got it." Lin Youzi was secretly ecstatic, but his emotions quickly shifted, fists clenching in fury. "Lin Youzi, no, that fraud. Whoever dared deceive me like this, just wait until I get to Wuhan City." The elder Yin's eyes narrowed as he observed his son's tense demeanor. He exchanged a glance with the butler, who silently retreated, ushering out the other servants to give them privacy. "So, tell me, what could throw you so off balance that you can't even control your emotions?" "It's nothing, Dad. I can take care of it on my own." "Is that so?" The elder gave him a meaningful look, then turned to leave. But before exiting, he added, "You'd better be able to handle it. Don't bring shame to our family's honor. Be ruthless when you need to be, and never let anyone compromise your judgment." These words struck Lin Youzi. Remembering his upbringing, he nodded, head lowered. "Understood, father." Satisfied, his father left. As head of the family, he needed absolute clarity in his decisions to ensure their survival. The coming of May's World OL would test every family's mettle, and if theirs held strong, it would preserve their legacy for generations. Meanwhile, seeing the call disconnected, Lin Youzi messaged Lin Youzi, asking if he'd deleted their chat history as requested. He waited, and waited. But there was no response. As he waited, he drifted off to sleep, only to wake up and find no reply still. "Guess he deleted it," he muttered. Perfect. Lin deleted all his own messages too, feeling a wave of relief. Now, all he needed was a new contact number, along with a quick stop by the school administration office to request a leave of absence for the martial arts tournament. Thanks to his traceback ability, he felt free to take calculated risks. Early the next morning, he used his power and hurried over to the office. The head administrator was busy sorting through papers, his dedication evident. "Good morning, sir. I'm here to collect my leave request. You'd agreed to it earlier." "Oh, it's you, Lin," the administrator replied. "Your sick leave must be up. With so many students already eliminated from the tournament, classes are resuming. I'll mark you down for personal leave instead." The administrator rambled on, clearly preoccupied. Lin's carefully prepared excuses vanished, realizing that the administrator had completely forgotten about their earlier deal involving the assembly speech. Did he forget? All the better. Guess I don't need to speak after all. Lin exited his traceback mode, smiling sincerely as he replied, "Thank you, sir. No need to thank me. If you couldn't get leave, your courses wouldn't continue anyway." In martial arts studies, things were unique that way. Just as Lin was about to leave, the administrator recalled something and added, "Oh, by the way, a lot of martial arts students are practicing riding at the stables. You're training too, right? How's your progress?" "Pretty decent, I think." "Good to hear. Go train with Captain Guan if you're serious. He's got a solid riding foundation, and with his help, you'll get the hang of it in no time." "Will do, I'll stop by when I can." With that, Lin took his leave, walking back with his official leave slip. Reflecting on recent events, he began to wonder. Have my fortunes started turning? Maybe heaven's finally on my side. When Lin Youzi returned to the dorm, he found his roommates, Lao Er and Lao San, fuming on the couch. It was the first time he'd seen them this angry, so he asked, "What happened?" "Come here and see for yourself, Xiao Lin," Lao Er replied, still furious, pointing at the computer screen. The page was full of comments in a foreign language, which Lin couldn't read. "What is this?" "It's on the international sites," Lao Er explained, quickly clicking through to get the whole page translated. "Johnson's methods are amazing, I've already found lots of girls." "Yep, I'm at the Foreign Languages Institute, pretending to be a chieftain and handing out fake gold bars, 2 girls a day. Haha, people are the best. These identities work wonders. I've already got a few girls pregnant." The page was practically a bragging ground. Many were sharing photos and videos, some showing multiple people mocking or humiliating others. Seeing such degradation directed at his own people, Lao Er and Lao San were enraged. Damn it. Lin Youzi watched a few clips, and even his own anger started to boil. There were plenty more degrading comments and videos, but he couldn't bear to keep watching. "How could they post this stuff?" he asked. "They're doing it to retaliate," Lao Er replied. "Johnson is dead, right? And now these idiots, who see him as some kind of life coach, believe we had him killed and are taking it out on us. Scum like him deserved far worse," muttered Sun Mingren angrily. Usually a quiet drinker, even he was fired up enough to speak up this time, which showed just how deep his anger went. "Try not to let this get to you too much," Lin said finally, then turned to head upstairs, trying to act indifferent. But inside, his heart was unsettled. Seeing those videos mocking his own people, how could he really not care? It left a knot in his stomach. Even when abroad, seeing a few inconsiderate fellow citizens damaging reputation felt embarrassing enough, this situation was far worse. Lack of decency might be a personal issue, something out of anyone's control. And as adults, they had to face the consequences of their own actions. If some chose to abandon all humanity and act like animals, who could really stop them? People and beasts are different because we understand honor and shame. No one just walks down the street naked, after all. People wouldn't, but animals might. Animals, after all, don't know what shame is. Elsewhere. Inside a casino. Qian Wujin was also watching videos. He enjoyed nothing more than browsing the foreign web. Huayu's network always shielded people too much, and he couldn't find any of the blood and violence he liked. Then he saw the videos. They dare insult me. In the video, it wasn't just boasting, but relentless insults directed toward whoever killed Johnson. They called that person a coward, claiming they only dared to attack from the shadows, and that if not for such a sneak attack, a free-fighting star like Johnson would never have been killed. And in the comments, there were endless jabs, mocking his high-hatted appearance, dubbing him a pig trying to wear an elephant's trunk. A clown still a clown, always hiding in the shadows. Check out that video. The great mentor Johnson took out so many people. His death was noble. The more Qian Wujin read, the more his blood boiled, his jaw clenched in anger. He felt fury with no outlet, as if he were swallowing bitterness he couldn't spit out. He had his pride as a boundary being, and to be mocked by these ordinary people was intolerable. Fine, fine. Just wait, he muttered darkly. No one insults a boundary being, let alone him. He began a chilling prayer, one he'd only ever used to channel his deepest rage. Oh, great Lord of the Abyss, I, your devoted servant, call upon you. Grant me the strength to punish those who disgrace your children. I shall offer you their souls. Abyssal rite of prayer. A strange, dark energy pulsed into the air, invisible but powerful, carrying Qian Wujin's plea upwards. The blue star consciousness sensed something amiss, instantly racing toward the disturbance, intending to block it. A low, rumbling thunder exploded overhead, and rain began to pour down with fierce intensity, seemingly out of nowhere. The sky itself seemed to have torn open, revealing ominous black swirls at the edges, as lightning crackled and flashed around it, illuminating the darkened city. Though it was morning, the entire city of Wanqing plunged into twilight. Residents were bewildered by this sudden, eerie weather. Wanqing had already been on the national radar countless times lately, for strange skies, elusive killers, and bizarre incidents surrounding Wanqing Martial University. It seemed there was always something. But as the black cloud finally pierced the rift, Blue Star consciousness faltered. The sky appeared to glitch, as if Blue Star was buffering, struggling to maintain stability. Rain ceased to fall in droplets. Instead, it came down in thin, distorted streaks, almost like low-resolution lines in a broken image. From a window in the small villa at Wanqing Martial University, Lin Youzi stood silently, watching the surreal sight. A sense of temporal dislocation washed over him. He could feel the world shifting. Over at the girls' dormitory, Fang stood near the entrance, arms crossed, her hair flowing with the wind, radiating a fierce, indomitable aura. Her gaze was locked on the ominous rift above. The erosion is accelerating. This level of disruption was something only seen when the erosion was halfway complete. This meant that instead of a year, Abyss Online would fully descend in just 6 months. This isn't good, she muttered, grasping the gravity of the situation. In half a year, the world would face its first surge of mutated creatures. The ocean would be hit hardest, and once the abyss affected marine life, the results would be catastrophic. Boundary beings across Wanqing felt the impending threat. And it was all because of Qian Wujin. He had sacrificed the souls of everyone in the casino, ripping a hole in the fabric of the sky. This was his way of making sure those who dared to provoke a boundary being would understand, the name of a boundary being is not to be defiled. Great Abyssal Lord, your faithful servant acknowledges that these souls alone are insufficient. Grant me some time, and I will gather more souls for you. A dark light enshrouded Qian Wujin as he prepared for his grim work. Meanwhile, across the globe in the Light Nation, the sky itself seemed to tear open as an ominous rainstorm began to pour down. The rain fell so heavily it felt as if it would flood the entire city. Under the thick, dark clouds, few noticed that a soul-harvesting demon had arrived, answering the taunts and mockery from those who boasted of their exploits and dared to insult Qian Wujin. He wanted them to pay dearly, to etch one lesson into their very souls: never challenge the power of a boundary being. As he whispered his sinister words, "I'm coming for you, swine," Qian Wujin left Wanqing, and almost immediately, the relentless rain began to let up. Now, only a light drizzle fell, the raindrops beating up on the leaves until, heavy and full, they slipped off in tiny cascades. The sun broke through the dissipating clouds, casting warm light over Wanqing. Birds resumed their search for food, sensing they had only a brief window of clear weather before the next storm might strike unexpectedly. From his dormitory window, Lin Youzi watched the final raindrop cling to a leaf, glistening and suspended, about to fall. That unsettling aura is finally gone, he muttered. Just then, a soft gust stirred, and the drop tumbled, splashing onto the ground in a burst of tiny droplets. Within that small, shimmering pool, Lin saw a brief reflection of the green leaves and the vast unknown fate awaiting Blue Star. He knew that no one could stop what was coming. Life would continue with its set rhythms, leaves budded and blossomed, then withered and fell in a timeless cycle. Only the winds and rains were ever unpredictable, something ancient people had long known as they prayed for protection from the skies. The central battles have started even earlier than in my previous life, he realized. It's time to start preparing. The conflict would last well into March, bringing massive upheaval. The coming devaluation meant the time to stockpile oil was now. Determined, he logged into the International Oil Exchange and invested $1 billion in the volatile market, setting his plans into motion. Meanwhile, in the foreign nation, another project was underway. Following a leak in their seabed chimes program, they were deliberating on how best to proceed with their surveillance efforts. Under the guise of a so-called peacemaker initiative, they advanced what they privately called the Prism Project. They needed a massive event to distract the public, something that could serve as the perfect cover. In Kolam State, relentless rain had brought severe flooding, devastating the area while leaving neighboring states untouched. Realizing this was no ordinary storm, the tower agency dispatched a team. Within a helicopter route, a hero sat, embodying unique powers, was codenamed Homer. With eyes that could fire laser beams and a constant mischievous smirk, he was as ruthless as he was efficient, stopping at nothing to complete his missions. As their helicopter hovered over the ominous tear in the sky, prepared for the descent, by jumping out of the aircraft from hundreds of meters up. Boom. Naturally, every hero can never make an entrance without a little destruction. Yes, amazing, just brilliant, I destroyed an entire floor. Homer exclaimed with a grin as he rose from the rubble. Behind him lay a building reduced to ruins by his explosive impact, rainwater cascading into the debris-filled remains. There was no sign of life within. Emerging from the devastation, Qian Wujin licked his lips, his eyes narrowing at the sight of a fellow kind. A great offering to our abyssal lord, he murmured. When he descended, he had massacred everyone in that building, sacrificing their souls to his master and rising to yellow tier, second stage, the highest level of any boundary being on Blue Star. Ordinary souls are truly weak, but yours will do nicely, he sneered, wiping blood from the corner of his mouth. Tossing a gold coin into the air, he watched it spin before flashing and vanishing in a burst of light. Active ability, spare no expense, spend a coin to dispel negative effects. The blast from Homer's impact had slightly shaken him, but the coin removed any lingering damage. With 1 coin a day as his base, plus his current savings, Qian Wujin still had a reserve of 10 coins. This boost pushed him up to yellow tier, third stage. The one from foreign country, my friend, just how did you end up here? Homelander asked, seemingly unperturbed and curious as ever, his smirk intact. Qian Wujin didn't bother to answer. After all, he didn't understand a word of their language. But there was one language everyone understood, combat. Qian Wujin lunged. Homer, with his enhanced physique, withstood the powerful blow and retaliated with a blast of laser vision. The shot hit its mark, injuring Qian Wujin, who gritted his teeth and began chanting. Realizing the threat, he turned to flee, moments before Homer could deliver another blow. Above, the rift shimmered as a dark light enveloped Qian Wujin. He cursed under his breath, shameless scum. His fury unbroken, the rift pulled him back in, closing up and silencing the rain as it faded. And elsewhere, in Wancheng, the skies darkened once more, clouds swirling as a new tier opened. Through it, Qian Wujin stumbled out, clutching his chest. Pathetic, he spat, blood trickling from his mouth. His frustration grew as he recalled his defeat, replaying Homer's laser attack in his mind. That ability, truly is dangerous. Qian Wujin couldn't shake his anger. Unbeknownst to him, just as Qian Wujin left, Homer looked up at the sky, only to see the strange rift vanish. How could someone possess such powerful abilities? His usual arrogant expression was replaced with a rare look of gravity. While Homer was rebellious by nature, he was no fool. He promptly called in his helicopter, reporting that he'd engaged a formidable opponent and gained critical intelligence. Within minutes, the helicopter arrived, scooping him up and swiftly exiting the scene. Meanwhile, back in Wan City. As the rift emerged in the sky, countless individuals felt an inexplicable disturbance. Many left their homes, gazing upward at the sky, where a black glow flickered within the open void. Minutes passed before the dark light dissipated. Lin Youzi's brow furrowed as he watched. What was going on? Why had that rift vanished for hours only to reappear so abruptly? Are they not worried about causing a panic? As expected, the internet had exploded into chaos. People shared videos of the rift, claiming the sky was torn, that the rain was caused by the leak, and that it was time for a divine intervention to patch up the heavens. Theories linking ancient mythology to reality surged, with references to the classic of mountains and seas and stories of Nuwa patching the sky. Many insisted that the legends were true. Despite the frenzy, official sources remained silent. A few science-focused media channels attempted rational explanations, but most people dismissed them outright. I think the authorities are hiding something from us. Look at the martial arts tournaments held yearly now. Why focus so much on martial arts when we're not at war? Strength training, sure, but this. Do any of you remember the game, Mystic Realm Online? I just realized that all my transaction records from the game are gone. Wasn't that game supposed to be non-pay to win? I sold my Mystic Realm currency to someone last year and made tens of thousands from it. But now, my bank can't find any record of that transfer, and my account's frozen because of it. Me too. Same here. As more people shared similar experiences, the speculation intensified. What if this is part of some massive conspiracy? Maybe the Five Alliances said, insufficient computing power, as a cover for some covert project, like an AI takeover. It could be a rebellion of robotic life forms. That's why they're encouraging martial arts, to prepare us. Right, that has to be it. But now, how should we feel about electronics? I just bought a new car. What if it turns into a transformer? And with that, the wild theories multiplied, fueled by both fear and fascination. This is the advantage of not managing. Opinions will always develop chaotically. As they evolve, they either approach the truth or veer far from it. Although the theory of rebellious mechanical life seems a bit far-fetched, people are uncertain yet curious. Some have connected this to the South Heaven Gate project, believing it more likely to be an alien invasion. Perhaps the claim from the Five Alliances about inadequate computing power is just an attempt to simulate alien attacks in Maze OL to explore ways to save humanity. The plan's eventual halt might mean they won. Or perhaps, they lost. This group debated endlessly. The authorities remained silent. Those in the know said nothing. And so, a few days passed, and the excitement died down somewhat. In November, after several clear days, the hole was no longer visible, the rain stopped, and everything returned to normal. The day after tomorrow, the main competition begins. At 9 in the morning, Jiang Yongji returned. He looked exhausted. This period of training was truly brutal. Today was supposed to be another training day, but tomorrow he has to give a speech to all the freshmen, he's no exception. It turns out the legendary dice from the Jiang Yuyan ancestor really exist at home, called the eight-sided divine dice. But he couldn't decipher them. Instead, he trained in other techniques, though he couldn't understand why his family owned the dog-beating staff technique. They even knew the famous mantra. To master this skill, you must first experience 3 days of a beggar's life. So, he really lived as a beggar for 3 days, sleeping outside, eating poorly, wearing thin clothes, and constantly being chased by city patrols. As the 3-day beggar trial neared its end, the patrols caught up to him. They intended to take him to the police station. With today's technology, finding a beggar's family shouldn't be hard. But Jiang Yongji refused. He kept running, evading them through the streets. Finally, he lasted until his beggar role ended, so weak from hunger that he could barely walk, wishing someone would Venmo him $50 for a decent meal. He slumped outside a shop, where the staff shooed him away, not wanting a beggar to scare away customers. The patrols were also about to drag him to the police station. Just then, Jiang Yongji's family arrived. Luxury cars rolled up one after another. And somehow, they even rolled out a red carpet, chanting in unison, "The 3-day period is over. Welcome home, young master." Jiang Yongji cringed so hard he could have dug into the ground with his toes. He weakly demanded that they help him into the car. The crowd watched as this beggar was whisked away in luxury cars, stunned. The story quickly went viral, and local officials commented, understanding that wealthy families sometimes want to strengthen the resolve of their heirs. But perhaps it could be done less drastically than having them live as a beggar. People were fascinated by this real-life Dragon King story, making it a hot topic at social gatherings. Then, Jiang Yongji formally resumed training. After those grueling days, he'd lost several pounds. When he returned, he found his 2 younger brothers tapping away on a keyboard at the table. "What are you two doing?" "Writing a script." "Been at it for days, still not satisfied." "Well, carry on. I'm going up to get some sleep." He was mentally drained, truly exhausted. All to shed the label of lucky player, he had endured it all. Just to prove himself in the competition the day after tomorrow. I, Jiang Yongji, am not a lucky player. Furthermore, Jiang Yongji noticed the betting odds were against him. People were actually betting he'd lose within 5 matches. This was seriously underestimating him. He had to win, make those betting on his loss regret it. So, he put all his money on himself winning 5 matches in a row. After watching Jiang Yongji head upstairs, the second and third brothers resumed polishing the script. The Double 11 performance script was nearly done. It had brotherhood, family ties, romance, and friendship. In the end, they'd elevate the story with the theme of lovers becoming friends, and sing the song Break Up Alliance together. At the curtain call, the entire cast would bow and thank the audience. They'd even mapped out the flow, which had cost them so many brain cells. Especially when it came to Xiaolin's costumes, they'd considered all kinds of options. First, they'd use a school uniform to ease Xiaolin's reluctance, then a work uniform for the scenes on the job. Then, casual attire for group outings. Finally, when everyone becomes friends, they'd all wear school uniforms again to reminisce about the past. Since the second and third brothers both wanted to act as Xiaolin's love interest, they decided to make it a messy love triangle. I love you, but you love him, the classic painful love triangle. This song would be the background music in the middle of the story. They even wanted the prop team to create snow and rain for the transformation scenes. When they finished the script, they sent it to the senior. The response was, "Looks good, go ahead with it as you've planned. Have you cast everyone? We have 4 cast members so far, but we still need 3. All right, send me the specs for the remaining roles, and I'll help you find people." With everything set, they just had to figure out how to get Xiaolin to agree to play the female lead. They needed to ask him when he was in a good mood. Got it. The two exchanged glances, coming up with the same idea. Their solution: bribe Xiaolin with good food. They immediately went out, making sure to get back with treats before Lin Youzi came downstairs. They were exhausted by the time they returned. Just then, it was lunchtime. Lin Youzi came down, looking for food. And there he spotted the two downstairs. "Still working on the script? How's it coming?" "We finished it. We wanted to ask if you'd act in it." "Sure." Lin Youzi agreed without hesitation. He'd already decided he wouldn't join any club activities, what did it matter? "But I need to check if I have time." The second and third brothers exchanged a knowing look, carefully avoiding mentioning the script's content and instead pivoted to logistics. "The performance is on November 11th, and we'll handle the costumes. We just need your size so we can reserve the right clothes." "No need for that. Just tell me what kind of clothes, I'll buy them myself." Lin Youzi wasn't about to share his measurements, so he politely declined their offer. The two brothers shared another look, unsure of what to do next. They began making exaggerated facial expressions. "Second brother, what do we do? If we say it's for girls' clothing, Xiaolin definitely won't agree." "Third brother, let's say it's for something youthful and active, a school uniform will work. For anything else, we'll just have to estimate." "Second brother, you're saying you can guess someone's measurements? That's creepy." "Third brother, it's not creepy, it's called good eyesight." "Second brother, all right, it's all up to you, then." Their silent conversation, filled with eyebrow raises and smirks, made Lin Youzi shiver with discomfort. Noticing his expression, they quickly cleared their throats and shifted the topic. "Xiaolin, so here's the thing, we need you to prepare a school uniform with a youthful vibe." "School uniform? What kind of play is this? Let me take a look at the script." Lin Youzi was curious about what kind of stage play would require school uniforms. Was it a campus romance? That felt a bit cliché. Seeing that he wanted to read the script, the two brothers became flustered and quickly interjected. "Hold on, the script has 2 versions, and we haven't finalized it yet. We still need to tweak a few things, but we'll send you the final lines and all." "All right then. And the costume? We can prep it in advance, it won't affect anything." Just then, the eldest brother, who had gone back to sleep, came downstairs. Hearing something about school uniforms, he asked, "School uniform? Does the university require uniforms now? I thought it was all about graduation gowns." No, it's for the stage play," they explained. "Speaking of which, here's your script, come over here for a second." Second brother pulled the eldest over to the couch while third brother set up an elaborate spread on the dining table, smiling as he invited Lin Youzi over to eat. Seeing that there was nothing else to discuss, Lin Youzi walked over to the table. Glancing at the luxurious lunch, he couldn't shake the feeling that these two were up to something. Are they worried I'll back out of the play? I'm a man of my word. If I said I'd do it, I'll do it, no backing out. Speaking of which, maybe I should tell them now that international crude oil is worth investing in. Prices are set to rise soon. I have something to tell you guys. This could be a multi-billion-dollar opportunity. His words instantly grabbed their attention. Let's eat first. I'll explain as we go. Soon, all four were seated around the 8-sided table, each at a different side, with Lin Youzi sitting on the east side, ready to share his insight. Time flowed quietly as they listened. Upon hearing the news, the three brothers were stunned, their minds buzzing. They hesitated, not ready to make such a big decision right away. I'll need to ask my dad first. Same here. The third brother didn't say a word, he silently took out his phone to call home. The three of them spoke in their local dialects, each updating their father about the opportunity. 10 minutes later, they looked defeated. Xiaolin, my dad doesn't trust me with that much. He's only willing to give me 5 million as a trial fund and told me to sell immediately if there's a loss. I only got 3 million. I barely got 1 million. The eldest brother was practically in tears. He'd already spent all his pocket money betting on himself winning 5 matches and now couldn't come up with any more funds. In that case, I'll put in 1 million myself, so we'll have a combined 10 million for the initial investment. If you all agree, I'll manage it. In his previous life, Lin Youzi had naively thought this pipeline explosion was merely a wartime limitation tactic, and he'd planned to make some quick cash from crude oil. But looking back, he realized this was a deliberate strategy to hinder development in the central region, letting the perpetrators occupy the area's resources. With that context, he continued, if we buy in around December, before winter, prices will peak near the new year. The central region is going to be extremely cold and will be in dire need of crude oil. So, hand over the 10 million to me, and I'll give you your profits over the holiday season. All right, no problem. They trusted Xiaolin fully. Great. I'll use a separate account to manage your investment, this way, it'll be easier to track the profits. Sounds good, they agreed, especially the eldest, who had contributed the least but didn't want to miss out. The second brother, however, was curious. He asked, how much are you putting in for yourself, Xiaolin? 100 million. Right, they thought, suddenly reminded. For all his innocent looks, Xiaolin was practically a money-making genius. They could still vividly recall the time he made 100 million in a single month. Hard to believe 2 months had passed since then. Today was November 2nd. The preliminary round had ended on October 27th, with a 7-day break from October 28th to November 3rd. That meant the competition would resume the day after tomorrow, on November 4th. Why did they have to learn this investment opportunity right before the tournament? The eldest brother felt a pang of regret. Had he known following Xiaolin was this profitable, why did he bet all his money on his own victory? Losing wouldn't have been so bad after all. So what if they called him a lucky player? At least he wouldn't have had to endure 3 days as a beggar. He shed a tear of regret. Big bro, are you crying? Are you that moved, big bro? It's fine. Even if you only put in 1 million, we don't mind. Yeah, exactly. What a character he was, truly a character. Xiaolin said nothing and quietly continued savoring his food. So delicious, the chicken wings, the duck leg. Wait a minute, this duck neck. He examined it closely. Something seemed off. Curious, he prodded it with his chopsticks. And suddenly, a small white object tumbled out. A tooth. What the? Xiaolin exclaimed in shock, his voice so high-pitched it sounded like a woman's voice, at least to the others. All three turned their heads at once, looking at him with curiosity. What happened? Where did you buy these marinated snacks? Xiaolin asked, swallowing back nausea. Why is there a rat's head in here? Are you sure this isn't braised rat? Is there? The second brother looked to the third. After a moment's thought, the third brother nodded and said, actually, yeah, that might be a field rat. Perfectly edible, don't worry. Field rats go for like, what, a few dozen bucks a pound. They're pretty pricey, the second added. Xiaolin looked at them in silence as they nonchalantly discussed the taste of field rat. His stomach churned, and he felt a slight pang of discomfort. That's it for me. You all enjoy. I'm going to lie down for a bit. Huh? Don't you want a little more? Look, we've got some duck neck left, and some duck head, see? As Xiaolin glanced back, he noticed a thin, round membrane near the duck head. He pointed at it, horrified. What's that? Seeing what he meant, the others burst out laughing. Relax, that's probably the membrane around the duck's eyeball. It's not what you think it is. What do you mean, what I think? I wasn't thinking anything. Xiaolin stammered, feeling like his dignity was slipping away. Today was clearly not his day. Ha ha ha, Xiaolin, surely you're not. I mean, any normal guy wouldn't have a use for that kind of, membrane, right? Look, it barely stretches a centimeter. Who's that small anyway? They laughed, but the laughter felt like a blade piercing into Xiaolin's soul. Who's that small? He couldn't help feeling a bit offended. Unable to take it anymore, he dashed upstairs, his cheeks burning with embarrassment. This was only the second time they'd ever seen Xiaolin lose his cool. Grinning, the eldest commented, "Is Xiaolin embarrassed? I didn't expect him to be so innocent." "Innocent Xiaolin is pretty cute, actually," the second added, and the third brother nodded silently, still amused. After munching on a few more field rat bites, the eldest finally asked, "Oh right, about that script, what's this about a dress? Give me the details." Upon hearing the question, second brother's eyes lit up, and he leaned in with a sly grin. "All right, here's the story." Upstairs. Lin Youzi felt like his stomach was splitting in two. He lay on the bed, rolling around in pain, wondering why this so-called holy water blessing wasn't activating. Wasn't it supposed to kick in automatically? The pain felt like a drill twisting inside him. His advanced constitution seemed useless against this very real agony. Holy water blessing, hurry up already. I can't take it, he groaned, clutching his stomach, only to realize the blessing had no power here. This wasn't some curse but a purely physical situation. Some sort of hormonal battle was raging inside him, seemingly ready to shed something unnecessary. It was almost as if the eighth petal on his core was trembling on the verge of blooming, just waiting for the right trigger. Desperate, he pressed a blanket against his stomach, hoping warmth might ease the pain. But it did nothing to quell the turmoil. Confused and still in agony, he staggered to the bathroom, thinking he might have food poisoning. But after sitting on the toilet so long his legs went numb, the pain hadn't lessened in the slightest. The cold seemed to seep into his bones. At his wit's end, an idea struck him: maybe if he caught a cold, it would activate his holy water blessing and finally alleviate this pain. It was a clever idea, exploiting a loophole in the system. So, with no hesitation, he stripped down, turned on the cold water, and stepped into the shower. It was November, midday or not, the cold water was biting. As the shower spray poured over him, trailing down his collarbones, he shivered from head to toe but pressed on, determined to push himself to the point of catching a cold. Under the chill, his stomach seemed to hurt even more. Glancing down, he couldn't help but recall the comment made at the lunch table. Whose would be that small? A new wave of pain shot through him as he gritted his teeth. Not one to back down, he decided to try activating his little buddy. First attempt, failed. Second attempt, failed. Third attempt, still a failure. Nothing worked, no matter how he tried. He looked down at his flat, well-defined stomach, the smooth waistline, the sculpted shape. Wait, what am I even thinking? He felt a shiver, realizing the cold must be affecting his brain. But still, he couldn't deny he had a nice body, even if he was missing 2 extra assets. Achoo. His immune system had finally kicked in, recognizing he was pushing himself into illness. Sensing that something was wrong, his brain was urging him to stop the self-torture. But he was determined, stubbornly remaining under the icy shower. If the heavens wouldn't pour down on him, he'd make his own rainstorm. Finally, after half an hour in cold water, he was shivering uncontrollably, his teeth chattering as waves of pain still coursed through his belly. In this miserable state, the holy water blessing activated at last. A gentle blue glow spread over him, instantly dispelling all negative effects and even drying his hair. Lin Youzi suddenly felt a rush of vitality, the pain gone, his legs strong, his back straight. He felt as though he could run up 25 flights of stairs without breaking a sweat. Ha! Not bad at all. Brilliant idea, he laughed to himself, falling backward onto the bed with arms spread wide, blissfully kicking off his slippers. Bare, gleaming legs stretched out freely, his robe disheveled, hair tousled, a broad smile on his face. Hey, cover up already. But he didn't care, after all, he was the only one who could enjoy this view. Most importantly, his stomach was finally pain-free, and that alone made him ridiculously happy. Overjoyed didn't even begin to describe Lin Youzi's mood at this moment. The pain he'd felt earlier, like an electric drill boring into his insides, was something he never wanted to experience again. It was sheer torture, easily rivaling the infamous 10 worst punishments he'd read about. Luckily, it was just a fluke, and he swore he'd never touch those marinated snacks again. This one experience had left a lasting shadow on his young heart. Too terrifying. Without realizing it, afternoon had come. He thought of his roommates, still downstairs. Surely, by now, they'd finished eating and should have come back up, right? Having only eaten a little at lunch, he was feeling hungry again and decided to head downstairs to find something to eat. As he reached the bottom of the stairs, he stumbled upon an unexpected scene. A. Stop, please stop. You two, don't fight anymore. B. Don't hold me back, Susu. This is a duel between me and him over you. C. Exactly. Someone like him doesn't deserve your love. A. That's not what I meant. I actually don't like either of you. I just see you both as friends. B and C both fell to their knees, exclaiming, "Oh, no. You're so cruel." Cough, cough. Watching the performance, Lin Youzi couldn't help but be amused. Who knew his roommates, seemingly grown adults, would be so childish as to be playing pretend? Clearing his throat to announce his presence, he looked at the trio with a smirk and asked, "What are you guys doing?" Caught off guard, the three looked embarrassed, one scratched his face, another ran his fingers through his hair, and the third avoided eye contact altogether. No one dared to answer. Several moments later, after their embarrassment faded a bit, second brother finally spoke up, "We were, rehearsing for the play." Really? Lin Youzi asked, skepticism written all over his face. Really, they replied in unison, each one sounding overly enthusiastic. They couldn't let him think they were just playing pretend, after all, they were adults now, far beyond such childish games. Seeing their earnest expressions, Lin Youzi half believed them. All right then. So, what's the script? Mind if I take a look? Maybe I could give you some feedback. The three exchanged glances, silently deliberating, and finally handed over a partial excerpt. After reading it, Lin Youzi found the plot a bit odd. A love triangle. Yep. Does it have to be this melodramatic? Well, the club president approved it, they replied matter-of-factly. All right then. What more could he say? He'd just be a guest performer anyway. There were plenty of other characters, and if he had a few lines, that would count as participation. So, where's my script? Ah, the script. They hadn't actually gotten around to compiling his lines yet. I'll finish it up tonight and send it to you. Sounds good. Lin Youzi wasn't too worried about the play. The real focus was on his speech tomorrow afternoon and the competition the day after. But first things first, he was starving. Just as he was about to head out, second brother asked, somewhat puzzled, "Did you just take a shower, Xiaolin?" "Yeah." "Why do you ask?" "Oh, nothing. I just smelled the scent of body wash." "Are you heading out somewhere?" His tone was so casual, yet forced, that Lin Youzi raised an eyebrow. But he didn't think much of it and simply nodded in response. "There's plenty of marinated meat in the fridge, just heat it up, and it's ready to eat." The words, marinated meat, immediately brought to mind the specialty field rat he'd tried, and his stomach gave a queasy lurch. "Please, stop talking about it. See you." Not wanting another round of stomach torture, Lin Youzi hurried out of the small villa. Huh. The three roommates exchanged glances. Field rat was delicious, crunchy, and full of flavor. Once he was gone, they looked at each other with a knowing smile. "Shall we continue?" "Yes, hurry, I can't wait." "Me too, I'm in." On the campus walkway, Lin Youzi strolled along, pausing now and then, until he reached Ice Island. Here, he could order drinks and grab some skewers. After ordering a few items and spending about 100 yuan, he sat by the air conditioning, idly scrolling through trending topics on social media. He usually didn't check the platform, but now he was curious about what young people were buzzing about, hoping to stay updated and find conversation topics for chatting with classmates. The top trending topic, unsurprisingly, was the martial arts competition. In second place was criticism from official media outlets against a certain formulaic TV drama. The poor script had sparked a wave of criticism. While audiences might overlook unrealistic logic and inconsistencies in novels, on the big screen, especially with realistic themes, it needs to align with common sense to avoid becoming laughable. In particular, the male and female leads felt jarringly detached from reality, likely due to novel-based setups that made little sense when adapted directly. Without thoughtful editing, these elements had become unintentional comedy material. Most of the trending topics were still about this TV drama. Lin Youzi thought to himself, what's the point of all this criticism? The scriptwriters and directors have already lined their pockets. Earning that much in one go, why would anyone care about some negative comments? Further down the trending list, past the top 10, was a story about a new conflict erupting in the central region. In the 20s, there was a comparison of photos showing a strange hole in the sky above Wancheng, alongside another hole above Columbia State in the Light Nation. The damage was severe in the Light Nation, with numerous fatalities. Light Nation claimed this was the result of Huayu's meteorological weapon, using the sky holes as a means of attack. They speculated that the hole might be the true trump card behind the South Heaven Gate project, which made them hesitate to take any rash actions. According to internal sources, a Huayu operative dubbed Patriot had indeed been in Light Nation, allegedly to kill civilians, though they suspected a hidden motive. Seeing the sky hole, Xiaolin knew something was off. In Mystic OL, every time a boss appeared, a dark hole would show up. In fact, before his death in his previous life, there had been a black hole above the demon. Now, it seemed that the danger had been looming for a while. The question was, where exactly was the demon horse at Wuhan University in Wancheng? Had it come from Mystic OL, or was it a mutation of a local creature? So hard to figure out. Just then, his skewers were ready. Putting down his phone, Lin Youzi focused on filling his stomach. While he was eating, back at the Tower Bureau, the newly appointed deputy director began his first speech. Why this theme of unity? One fantasized about making a grand entrance to be the ultimate hero, while the other spent his days trying to look cool, only to duck out at the first sign of danger. Thus, the newly promoted and unyielding Patri had taken it upon himself to deliver a unity speech, aiming to rally the heroes together. After clearing his throat, he began, unity, among ordinary people, it's like addition. But among superheroes, it's not addition, it's multiplication. For example, 1 + 1 among regular people adds up to 2, but with superheroes, it's 1*1. Suddenly, Patriot stumbled, realizing his analogy wasn't making sense. Quickly recovering, he continued, a divided group is like that 1 by 1, always just adding up to 1, not even matching regular people's unity. And we can't follow their example. The crowd responded with applause, unwilling to let his failed example stand. Patri tried again, regular people's unity is addition, like 1 + 1 or 2 + 2. But with outstanding heroes like us, our unity is more like 2 by 2. He said it loudly and confidently, even raising his eyebrows. But the crowd fell silent. 2 + 2, and 2*2, both were just 4. Nothing special compared to regular people's unity. Maybe, Deputy Director, it'd be better if you stopped using examples, math really isn't your strong suit. Of course, they only dared to think this, not say it. Sensing the awkward silence, Patriot quickly realized his error. Anyway, unity, it's all about unity, damn it. Yes. That's better, they thought, direct and to the point. Now, back in Wancheng. Qian Wuji had just been hit by a laser sneak attack, leaving burn marks on his abdomen. After using some gold coins to heal himself, his expression turned dark. When had his luck started turning so sour? Oh, right, it was when that woman with the bow messed up my outfit. He'd figured it out. Ever since that woman ruined his clothes, his luck had been on a downturn. And it definitely wasn't because he thought she'd be easy to handle. Sure, he couldn't quite handle fighting his equals, but what was so hard about handling a defenseless woman? Without a team to back him up, he'd have to take matters into his own hands. He donned a vintage suit, gripped his cane, donned a red hat, and applied a thick, aristocratic mustache. Perfect. A dignified nobleman. It was only around 4 p.m., and Qian Wuji would have to wait until the next day for his coins to refresh so he could save up enough to raise his rank by 1 level. He wasn't ready to believe he'd lose to her again. If he did, he might just hang himself in shame. Meanwhile, back on Wuhan University campus. There was no sign of Lin Youzi at Ice Island. He'd moved on to the grocery store to pick up ingredients for a big meal, planning to treat himself before the 2 busy days ahead. The cashier, who recognized him, asked curiously, and he answered frankly. "I'm just getting some ingredients to cook in the dorm." Oh, miss, you're so beautiful and kind-hearted, not to mention talented in cooking." "Oh, not really, just barely edible," he replied with a chuckle. As the cashier rang up the items, her eyes stayed on him, even though her hands worked swiftly. She called out each price, secretly thinking, what a sweet, shy girl, so adorable, I just want to give her a hug. Once the items were totaled, the bill was nearly 1,000 yuan. The cashier offered to use her employee card for a discount, but Lin Youzi politely declined, knowing it would use up her monthly quota of employee discount credits. He did not accept this benefit. He had no money before and acted pitiful and played the victim. Now that he has money, he cannot continue to deceive others like this. "It's okay. My roommates will give me money. It's not all my money. I'm just the chef who comes out to buy food." "Oh, okay." He said goodbye to the cashier. Lin Youzi returned to the dormitory. He found 3 people lying crookedly on the sofa. They looked like they were tired from playing and resting on the spot. He did not choose to wake them up, but cooked first. Soy sauce, oyster sauce, cooking wine. First use cooking wine to remove the fishy smell, then oyster sauce to enhance the flavor, and finally soy sauce to color it. To be more precise, it should be dark soy sauce to color it. This is a plate of duck meat. Why duck meat again? Lin Youzi said that he really doesn't know many dishes. There is also stir-fried bitter melon with meat. There is also stewed soup. The soup ingredients include ginseng, abalone, chicken, and other Chinese medicinal materials. This is the biggest expense, it's very expensive, the competition is coming up, I should make up for it. It was almost 6 o'clock when everything was done. The 3 people lying on the sofa woke up. Because it smelled too good. This time, the people in the next dormitory couldn't stand it. They ran over just to get a free meal. "You are too much. You actually invited the little cook to cook. Damn it, I have to pay her to cook too." They cursed that the man who was so good at cooking would never find a girlfriend in the future. "Now I see that this is the little cook, why do I need to find a girlfriend?" Facing this, Lin Youzi didn't explain, and the 3 of them didn't explain. It's a misunderstanding, it's very interesting, isn't it? They had made a fool of themselves in front of Shaolin before, and they also wanted to make a fool of themselves for these people. A guest is a guest. Since you are all here, Shaolin, bring a few more pairs of chopsticks. They even ordered him to do it. Lin Youzi had no choice but to turn around and get the bowls and chopsticks. The people in the next dormitory looked at the slender Lin Youzi and almost drooled. Virtuous, too virtuous. Ahem, this Shaolin is from our major. I remember seeing her that night. The second brother picked it up and replied calmly. Yes. I was wondering, how could there be such an outstanding person? It turned out to be Shaolin, the white moonlight. Ah, are you disgusting? Lin Youzi's palms were full of force. Don't think he can't hear it. And the white moonlight sister, he really felt very, very. I don't know how to describe this feeling. Forget it, we are all classmates, we should smile. Do you have Xiaolin's contact information? I feel like I've fallen in love with her. I've decided. Anyway, I've been eliminated in the audition. I'll start pursuing Xiaolin tomorrow. I'm laughing at you. Lin Youzi really can't stand it. Why did he have to meet these people who are greedy for his body? What do you say about liking? It's just lust after beauty. With a cold face, he put the rice bowl on the table and sat down to eat in silence. He ate very quickly. Then he went out to relax. Less than 5 minutes. Everyone was shocked. The little cook has finished eating. She ate so little, no wonder she is so thin. The evening breeze brought this sentence to Lin Youzi's ears. He came to the lakeside irritably and kicked stones. It's not a girl, But the words he said were getting smaller and smaller, and he himself began to not believe it. Self-deception is no longer of much use. He can see the changes in his body every day. Lin Youzi was both terrified and curious about the future changes. In his past and present lives, he had never experienced the identity of a girl. If he really became a girl, it seemed that he could accept it. No. How could he have 3,000 beauties in his harem after becoming a girl? 7 petals on his shoulders had already lit up. He had expected that when 10 petals were lit up, he would become a girl. But he was afraid that the transformation was not complete. If that thing was still there and something new grew out, he would collapse. That was why he was disgusted by all kinds of comments saying that they liked him, pursued him, and said he was beautiful. Every time he said it, he would feel more tormented in his heart. What if? What if more petals grew out in the future and they didn't fall off? Fear came from all directions in the dark like a tide. It was terrible. In his previous life, he was only in his early 20s. He had never experienced any social tests and had always lived in a protected ivory tower. The same is true in this life. Because of this, even if he has lived for more than 40 years, he is still the same psychological age as when he was young. When encountering things, he will be afraid instinctively. But he likes to pursue excitement. Young people are brave enough to love and take risks. In order to deal with the OL in the world of mystery, he has been suppressed for 18 years in this life. Very tired. Lin Youzi didn't know how long he walked. He walked out of the lake and came to the small road. The road was full of trees on both sides. When the wind passed, the leaves rustled and the wind blew on his face. It was cool. He kicked the stone depressedly. In the dark distance, there were street lights to guide him on the road ahead. When he returned to the small Western-style building, the 3 of them had already prepared everything and washed the dishes. However, they still left some uneaten food for Shaolin. Now seeing him come back, they immediately stood up and surrounded him. The 3 of them bowed to apologize. Seeing this, Lin Youzi waved his hand and didn't care. It was not their fault, and irrelevant people should not be involved. He advised. Go and rest first, don't you have a game tomorrow? Well, Xiaolin, I'm sorry, those people spoke without thinking, I have taught them a lesson. The eldest brother bowed and apologized. Seeing this, the second brother waved his fist and said indignantly. Yes, Xiaolin, don't be angry, the eldest brother has already stabbed them hard with a stick. Second brother, don't use such words that are easily misunderstood. I'm telling the truth, your stick is very long and hard, and it stabbed them and made them scream. You, get out. It was getting more and more weird, and Lin Youzi smiled. Okay, I know what you mean, go up. It's good that Xiaolin smiled, let's go, the food has been heated up. Okay, go up. After finally coaxing the 3 people up like coaxing a child, he came to the dining table, looked at the untouched food, and sat down to taste it carefully. It's really delicious, worthy of his cooking. It's late at night. In the early morning, a car stopped at the center of Wancheng, and a young man got out of the car. This is the villa that Dad talked about. It's so late today. Let's go in and rest first, rest for a day, and go to the scene to watch the game tomorrow. He ordered the butler and servants who followed from the manor to move the things in. He came to the room empty-handed. The villa is very high, and you can see the commercial center of Wancheng. He is in a villa complex, and there are thousands of lights outside the window. Lin Youzi, you, sigh. He didn't know what to say. After getting angry once, he could only sigh helplessly the next time he thought about it. The night got deeper, and the sky was dimly lit. Unconsciously, vendors appeared on the roadside. It turned out that those mobile vendors seen in Wancheng Commercial Center all set out to rush here at around 6 o'clock in the morning. Another half an hour later, there was a lot of traffic. The night of Wancheng ended and the hustle and bustle of the day came. 7 o'clock. The street lights went out. People pushed the carts forward and dozed off after arriving at the designated location. In the small Western-style building, a faint rustling sound appeared. It was the boss who got up. He washed his face with cold water, refreshed himself, and went to the front yard to exercise. He was still nervous when the competition was approaching. After a while, Lin Youzi also got up. He looked at the front yard and thought of the speech in the afternoon, and he was a little nervous. What should I say to make Shurifang feel completely at ease? Freshman speeches are not a small matter. Just at this time, the director called and asked him how he was preparing for the freshman speech. Don't worry, director, leave it to me, no problem. Okay, I trust you, don't mess it up. Yeah, don't worry. After hanging up the phone, Lin Youzi went downstairs to prepare some breakfast, and then went out to get in touch with Ma Er. Today is a day of rest, no training. Soon. This day passed. November 4th. Tomorrow there will be a competition, a speech in the afternoon, and a freshman welcome party in the evening. Early in the morning, Lin Youzi disappeared. He found camouflage clothes and put on a 10-centimeter thick insole, just to reproduce the height of 181. And bought a hat, a scarf, gloves, and a coat. After putting them all on, he only had one feeling, that is, it was hot. It doesn't matter. It's just right to be a little hot. People who are tired are weaker and wear more clothes to avoid the cold. It's reasonable. At noon, Lin Youzi came back after lunch. The three felt that Shaolin was very mysterious today. He was busy all day and didn't know what he was doing. I wanted to ask, but I couldn't find a chance. Until the freshman speech was about to start, he seized the opportunity to ask. Shaolin, the freshman speech is about to start. Are you going? I'll help you save a seat. Okay, then help me save a seat. I may have something to do and need to arrive later. Okay. The three set off. As soon as they left, Lin Youzi followed them out. After changing clothes outside, he came to the backstage of the big stage under the curious eyes of everyone. As soon as the host saw Lin Youzi, he knew that he was the person who was about to give a speech. It's Lin, right? We've been waiting for you for a long time. Have you prepared a script? Script? Why do I need to prepare a script? The host was silenced. Soon, he adjusted his facial expression, smiled and said kindly. It doesn't matter if there is no script. We prepared it in advance. It is a script written based on your deeds. Looking at the thick script in the host's hand, Lin Youzi felt dizzy. He refused. No need for a script. The experience of the incident is all in my mind. I can tell it without a script. Makes sense. The host felt that what Lin said was right. Isn't it just telling the story again? What kind of script is needed? And the speech without a script is more real and convincing. Then, let Lin Youzi prepare and go on stage to give a speech. Oh, okay, I'll go up when my name is called. Manuscript. Lin Youzi really didn't have a manuscript. But he could still make up a story. Those two roommates who wrote the script were really annoying. They refused to let him write it. If they had let him write it, it would have been done in a moment, and they wouldn't have wasted so much time. The theme was to prevent fraud. He had to talk about the naivety of greed for money, the regret of being cheated, and the survival of being saved. In short, no matter what, it had to be elevated to preventing being cheated, and not being greedy for small gains. This was also a good thing. The director really took great pains to use real examples to warn the freshmen. After the opening remarks, the male and female hosts said in unison. Let's welcome Lin with applause, and let him introduce us to the dangers abroad. The applause was very enthusiastic. The bitter melon trio was a little confused. Where was Shaolin? It had already started, why hadn't he come yet? At this time, Lin Youzi came on stage. He wrapped himself up thickly, which attracted a lot of discussion from the classmates. In this weather, everyone is wearing short sleeves, or at most a coat, and no one is as exaggerated as him. The weird outfit attracted everyone's curiosity. Lin Youzi knew it, and a good idea came to his mind. Hello, everyone. I am Lin. Today I will share a real case with you. He took a weak breath, and after several seconds, he continued. You see, isn't it strange that I wear so many clothes? Because I was deceived, I lost a waist, and now I am afraid of the cold. The freshman in the audience exclaimed. This can't be true. How can I be so weak as if I am dying without a waist? Ahem, don't doubt it, this is true. I still have a disability certificate and a medical examination certificate from the hospital. Lin Youzi showed the medical examination certificate, which was the list that was taken to the hospital for examination by the military green coat commander before. The list was very blurry, and the disability certificate was handed over to him by the director. With the appearance of supporting materials, most of the freshmen believed it. They looked at the tightly wrapped person on the stage wearing a coat, and felt a dull pain in their waist. This is too miserable. Ahem, don't think this is a small matter, it is not a small matter. Lin Youzi said, stretched out his hand, panting. Can you please find me a chair? I can't stand. The host didn't know whether it was true or not, and he immediately moved the chair to the stage. After sitting down, he half lying, holding the microphone, began his story-making. Since the establishment of the school, the first person to sit on the stage and give a speech, except for the leaders, may be Lin Youzi. He spoke intermittently and weakly. It seemed as if he would die in the next second. The freshmen didn't dare to speak, holding their breath, listening carefully to the dangerous journey abroad. When I contacted a money-making channel, they asked me to meet at the border. I went there, and there were many other people. They took us to the campus in a shabby van. In fact, when I crossed the border, I was scared and regretted it, but thinking of the income of tens of thousands of yuan a month, I still had a fluke. As a result, because of my fluke, the nightmare started from here. As he said, he coughed, and the freshmen felt uncomfortable. How could this happen? But they still listened quietly. Lin Youzi laughed inwardly, thought about the follow-up quickly, and spoke slowly. After entering the park, my ID card and mobile phone were snatched away by the thugs. If someone refused to give them back, they would be electrocuted. At that time, I knew I was cheated. On the first day of being cheated, they said that they were going to the internet company for a security review, but it turned out to be a scam. I refused and was beaten. On the second day, I hadn't eaten for 2 days. They asked me to ask my family for help. I said I was an orphan, and then I was beaten again. On the third day, I couldn't hold on. The scam didn't get any money. They were very angry. They grabbed my hair, dragged me for more than 10 meters, and then started to draw my blood. At this point, his tone became excited again, and he kept coughing. But even so, he still talked about experience. I watched the blood being drawn out with my own eyes, and the fear of losing blood surged into my heart. I begged for mercy, but was punched in return. I was scared and regretted my greed. At this point, Lin Youzi pretended to cry, and the sound of sobbing, anyone who was not heartless would cry. The male and female supporters in the backstage had red eyes. They understood why Lin didn't need the manuscript anymore, because he himself was the real manuscript. When everyone was immersed in the sad mood created by Lin Youzi, his voice came again. This time, it was a dead and indifferent voice. Do you know, when I was in the park, I was sold everywhere. If someone paid to buy me, I could live. I forgot how many times I was resold. Until the end, no one bought me, not even 50,000 yuan. The tone of resignation, everyone knows what will happen next. The goods that no one wants must play their final value. You should have guessed it. My kidney was broken and I didn't get anesthesia. It hurt so much. I was in so much pain at the time, but my expression was numb. After that, he fell silent. After a long silence, he stood up and bowed, saying apologetically, I'm sorry to let you know about this past. I just want to say that everyone should not be deceived by the high-salary news outside. I am serious about this. After that, Lin Youzi walked off the stage. No matter how false the previous story was, he was sincere in the last words and didn't want to see anyone being deceived. Long after classmate Lin left, everyone was still sad. And Lin Youzi had quietly come to the class. He didn't say a word and sat on the ground in silence. The ground was covered with soft grass. It was usually a football field, but now it was occupied. After a long time, the host came on stage wiping tears and spoke with a crying voice. Lin's experience is heartbreaking. He tells us from his own experience that young people should not be too young. If they are too young, they are easily deceived. No one thought that such a heavy topic would appear in the freshman speech. Blood drawing, kidney piercing without anesthesia. Some female classmates couldn't help trembling just thinking of this scene. It's too scary. Mixed in the crowd, Lin Youzi was looking for Shuri Fang. I wonder if she could understand and stop looking for Lin Youzi. Can you understand? You should understand. You have always been very smart. At the front of the class, Shuri Fang's expression was extremely solemn. Disappeared for a year, no information can be found. It turns out that she was deceived, but this is not right. You also talked about campus life. That's not fake. She is really smart. It's just that what she thinks is different from what Lin Youzi wants her to know. And this speech allowed Shuri Fang to find proof of his existence. Lin, haha, you are still here. Don't try to hide from me. Not everything goes as expected. This time Lin Youzi made a mistake, putting him at risk of exposure. But at this moment, he was completely unaware and was quietly chatting with his roommates. The freshman welcome party tonight, I wonder what kind of performance it will be. It should be something funny. The earlier part was so sad, if there's another tragedy, it'll truly be tragic. I think so too. The second and third brothers thought that according to the script, the freshman welcome party should be a tragedy in the beginning and a happy ending. There's always a need to highlight something special to leave a deep impression on the freshmen. Lin Youzi thought they had a point. Then the night arrived. During this period, there was a 2-hour break in between. Many people had dinner and took a shower before coming. The fragrant smell filled the playground. This once-a-year scene made many people restless inside, taking actions in pursuit of their happiness. If they missed this opportunity, they would have to wait until next year to see it again. The freshman welcome party happens once a year. Next year, it will be for the new freshmen. There are also seniors looking for pretty juniors, hoping for sweet campus romances. Pretty girls naturally attract attention, and among them, the pure-looking Lin Youzi attracted all kinds of bees. Beautiful flowers attract butterflies. Hi classmate, my name is Xuemenfeng. The handsome senior hadn't even finished introducing himself when he realized the person in front of him looked familiar. Ah, classmate, have we met somewhere before? The boys who also wanted Lin Youzi's contact information scoffed, mocking. I say, senior, your way of hitting on people is too outdated, watch me. He pushed Xuemenfeng aside, took a step forward, flipped his hair, and suddenly changed to a pleading tone, saying pitifully. Sister, could you help me cut a knife on Pinduoduo? If successful, I'll treat you to milk tea, I'm just a few people short. After saying that, he felt proud inside, thinking that this was the new era's way of hitting on people. Free milk tea, no girl would refuse, right? No way, you won't refuse, or you are not a girl. Besides, this milk tea is a reward after helping, it's labor income, so you can accept it with a clear conscience. Whether it succeeds or not, he would say it did and then treat her to milk tea. Gradually, they would become familiar. He thought it was a good idea, but Lin Youzi didn't follow the routine, refusing with the excuse that he didn't participate in the cut-a-knife activity. How is it possible, even such an advanced way of hitting on people failed? He walked to the side dejectedly, standing with Xuemenfeng. Although he didn't know why he stood there. The next one had a sporty look, holding a basketball, smiling brightly. Lin Youzi looked at him curiously, wanting to know his advanced hitting on methods. Classmate, interested in swimming and fitness. Alright, he wasn't hitting on her, he was advertising. Lin Youzi turned and left, goodbye. To get contact information, you can ask for help first, if refused, say it's urgent. Then rush over, apologize constantly, and say you want to treat her to a meal. After the meal, say you had a good time and ask for contact information. Of course, this shouldn't be done recklessly to avoid problems. Finally driving away these people trying to hit on her, Lin Youzi felt really troubled. Oh dear, sometimes being too good-looking is a bother. You three, stop watching and come help me block people. Okay, Xiao Lin. The three appeared. At this moment, Xuemenfeng remembered where he had seen Lin Youzi before. He looked up, saw the three approaching, and ran away like a flash. He made a mistake. He, a senior in his third year, actually stumbled in front of the juniors. Unacceptable, unacceptable. Finally, the surroundings quieted down, and the freshman welcome party began. The performances included singing, skits, acting, choir, and recitation. It was the same as always, but this time it included a lion dance performance by the seniors of the martial arts department. It was quite impressive. As the host announced the successful conclusion of the evening party, fireworks were lit up all around the campus. They were beautiful and stunning. In his previous life, Lin Youzi had watched this once and didn't feel much about it. In this life, it was different. He knew this would be the last time he saw these fireworks, and he cherished it immensely. It's over. He muttered softly, lowering his head. This was good, too. Beautiful things are like fireworks, fleeting and ephemeral. They don't need to last forever as long as they were once owned. The night deepened. The students went back. Tomorrow, those who have classes will attend classes, and those who have competitions will compete. Time flew by, and the next day arrived. Jiang Yongji got up early. After warming up in the front yard, he left the school gate. Lin Youzi woke up right after him. His equipment was in the locker at the commercial center, so he went there to change. Because he also had a competition in the morning. The school security gate opened. Grandpa Guan adjusted his hat, took off his security uniform, and walked out of the gate in casual clothes. 2 hours later, the main competition began. This time, the main competition was very grand, with colorful flags and ribbons everywhere. On both sides of the street, police officers were patrolling continuously. Many temporary sentry posts also appeared beside. 16 referees stood on 16 stages, announcing the codes of the contestants. In Area 1, the first match, Jiang Yongji vs. Code Captain Jia. Jiang Yongji took the stage. To showcase the power of the dog-beating stick technique, he changed into ragged clothes. This outfit made the driver want to give him money to change his clothes when he took the bus to the competition in the morning. But Jiang Yongji said, no need to change those clothes. This outfit better suited his stick brother persona. His opponent, Captain Jia, had a middle-parted hairstyle, sported a mustache, was thin and lanky, and when he grinned, you could see he was missing several teeth. The match began. Captain Jia pulled out a boomerang from his waist and quickly threw it out. Jiang Yongji swept his stick left and right, knocking the boomerang away. At this moment, his stance was in a bow step, one leg forward and the other back, lowering his center of gravity, holding the stick's end tightly with both hands, pointing the stick forward diagonally, and his eyes fixed on the tip of the stick and Captain Jia, asking the way with the stick. Meanwhile, in Area 16, Cloak Guest took the stage. He only held a spear and looked at his opponent. Lin Youzi's opponent was someone who ranked in the top 100 in the previous competition, nicknamed Hidden Blade Guest, who liked to use chain knives. His hidden blade technique was formidable and hard to defend against. You mustn't let him get close, as close combat could easily lead to defeat. The duel between the two guests was very entertaining. Lin Youzi made the first move. He stepped forward, using the power from his waist and hips, wielding the spear with half of his strength, pressing towards the hidden blade guest. The opponent crossed his double knives, blocking the spear strike, then quickly withdrew his left-hand knife, letting the knife drop. This action caused Lin Youzi's center of gravity to shift. At this moment, the falling knife was clamped by Hidden Blade Guest's leg, attacking the lower area. Seeing this, Lin Youzi quickly retreated, raising his spear to block. After blocking the lower attack, the coming head strike began to fall. He narrowly dodged this strike by tilting his head. Then, from an unexpected angle, Hidden Blade Guest held a knife in his left hand, swinging it towards Lin Youzi's abdomen. This was the third knife. As expected of the Hidden Blade Guest. This move caused the audience to burst into excitement. Ha ha ha, it has to be the Hidden Blade Guest. This hidden blade technique is elusive and truly impressive. What Cloak Guest? He's just a player who relies on small tricks. Hidden Blade Guest, go, eliminate him. Such a person doesn't deserve to be a martial artist.